things. We kill the moment with those things. Allow it to land. Leave it alone. Silence is more powerful than talk. Okay? Next slide. Stop here. I just want you to read it twice and I move ahead. If I say anything here now, I'll be on TikTok the very next day. We have some of the greatest actors in Africa. Most people think that all our actors come from the streets. No. Are you aware that our theater departments in our universities are actually some of the oldest in the country? University of Ibadan has been graduating actors since the 60s, formally trained. Ife was a bastion of all kinds of performances. And what they were interpreting were incredibly strong material. Jos, the repertory theater in Jos. Many of us don't realize that NTA was the only place where actors could get jobs for a long time. And NTA was filled with incredible actors. Our problem is not our actors, they're skilled. Many of them are also very, very educated in acting. Our problem is what we are making them do. You have to embrace subtlety. The loudest person is not the most talented. And we have to be careful with gesticulations. You can do that on stage. In cinema, is screwing up the lighting. So when you have people talking, always doing this, as we have in some, those same things can be done without all of this. But it is the job of the director to temper it if you're not doing coverage. And that will be because you've spoken to the actor, you've actually had a read, and you've picked what is the tone of the scene, right? That third one is the most important. The fourth one. The fourth one is the most important thing. Long portions of dialogue. It means there's no script editor. It means there's no story editor. Soliloquies are for stage, not for cinema. Every minute in cinema is expensive. So we gotta harvest cinema's capacity to show us more than we are telling them. And we can't repeat things that need to be said, they need to be seen. We write crazy dialogue like, oh, I am angry. Why are you telling me? It's a waste of dialogue because I can see you. And if you're angry, I can tell. Huh? Move forward. I'm done. Let me move. You get the deck and then you'll understand it. Oh, please, sir.
Next slide.
Next slide.
This is important. You don't go to edit for the story to make sense. And the problem is many of us go to edit in order to see if we can elongate the story so we can have part two. That's why if you are doing that, don't ask for global creative recognition because it's difficult. You can't have, you know what the French people say? On the energy, you can't have both. But if you are going to be looking for artistic recognition, you've got to understand that it's sitting down in post that actually makes a film. It's not the script, it's important. It's not the filming, that's important. But the director must actually sit. Not because the editor, whether he's an offliner or he's an onliner, whatever you want to call him, right? Well, an offliner should have cut what is on your script, okay? The best scenes of everything you shot. Your job before is to actually remove things, not to add them. To remove things is not to remove entire scenes, it's to determine at what point do we scene, when do we need to get out of it? What is important? How long is an estab? Do you need an estab? If you've shown me that house at the beginning, unless you're a soap opera, I don't need to see it again. I also cannot see your lead actor in every scene following each other, because effectively, I kind of have a good idea of what he will do after the first 2 or 3. So this is what I need us to know. A lot of our films are absent of rhythm and of pacing. What we can do in 30 seconds will take a whole 5 minutes. And please, no more shots of the bridge, no more drones that go on for days. Those things may look beautiful, but they lack authorship. Next slide. Quick. I see my guy here. This is directing 101. The fact that colors are linked to emotions, right? So we can't have editors who just desaturate everything and call it coloring. They call it, what's the thing they call it? They say they are grading when it's a setting. It's a simple setting in Final Cut. You can do it yourself if that's what you want. Don't pay somebody a sum of money to use one setting to simply turn your entire film. That setting with AI now, oh gee, Lord Jesus, AI does it even better than your editor will do it. And I think AI will take about maybe 25 minutes is a really dense film. That is if it's a really heavy files. Next slide. I see each of these slides and we talk for days. So let me just, next slide, please.
Next slide.
I would dash you this for free. If there's a principal reason where the films that are given fair will not go anywhere, it's in the subtitling. Because we think subtitling is an afterthought, something that a production assistant in the studio would do. When in fact, subtitling is your storytelling to somebody who is not part of your culture. It's your passport to getting their attention. So even if you're speaking pidgin, the director needs to sit down and tell me, not that the words were translated, do they have meaning in the context of the story, in the context of the film, in the context of our culture? So if the director was there, what is it? Is it possible then to have spelling errors? Because if I see a film and it's opaquely has spelling errors, that's the first reason I know that the guy who directed this is not paying attention. How can your film go to a festival and your subtitling has spelling errors? But beyond that, your SRT files are very important. It's very easy to use AI to actually do a first run translation to Italian, to French, to whatever, okay? Film is so easy now, a copy of your files can be made for all the languages of the world if you want. but it is a face-to-face. Why? Because you are on Vimeo. If you're on Vimeo, you are looking at about 1,000, 5,000 festivals across the world. Many of them are in those different regions of a different language from English. Second thing, as long as you're applying to put your film in international category, make your film in your own language. That's what other people do. Why can't you make a film in Hausa? Why can't you make it? I'm from Ondo State, and I'm certainly making the next thing I'm doing is going to be in that language. Not because I'm looking for an Oscar, but because really as a filmmaker, there's something wonderful about understanding the power of language for imagery. We have 100 and something of them. Why are we insisting on shooting films in English, and then we speak the English badly? Next slide, please.
Next slide.
If you are, this is important, we're almost 2 slides away from end. If you're a filmmaker, this is, you know why this is important? There's no festival that takes your film without 3 to 4, 5 different reviewers watching the film and agreeing on which ones we are going to select for a second watch. Only the audience come to the cinema one time. I say, I love it. You ask them what they love. The first viewing is what happens. That's the plot. Well, if your film is strong enough, they'll come back and watch it again. Why? They want to know how you did that. Not how you place the camera for 2 people to talk, but really how did you make a scene so powerful that I could feel it. The third is the most important. What does it mean? If it's a love story, between when we started Nollywood 93 and now, if you had to guess, how many love stories do you think? You think it'd be up to 5,000? Maybe 10,000? By love story, I mean all kinds of love. In-law love, hate, mommy's mom, 3 husband and wife, all these things. My question often is, what is, we all know what love is. The question is, what insight does your film deliver to me about the nature of love? Is it the sacrifice of love? What is the humanity in your story beyond what could easily be on TikTok? Is your film fanning anger against in-laws and I write really massively bad stuff for cinema, you know? Well, beyond love. So when I teach, I do not allow my students to film about love because it is an easy way out. The reason people make film about love is because they are not experiencing many. Their hearts are not open to new experiences that can help them to actually begin to know or design characters in politics, in economics, in sciences. We are not doing what I call imagination engineering. That's what cinema is about. That's what directors do. You take me from what I know. I don't want to enter your film every day and it's that, oh yeah, I know a girl like that on our street. Why am I paying for that then? Unless what that girl represents a higher level of thinking, it's very difficult because we're not the only ones in love. But what does it mean? That's why great films are rewarded. Because it means our conversation as humanity gives us something fresh to aspire to. People write books from films just as we make films from books. And it's very important to know that a lot of people write books, have a very intense intellectual exercise with the subject matter. So if you can't write great stories, please adapt our books. We have loads and loads of books. The first and most important part of our creative tradition is books. We had global authors in 1963. Tina, J.B., Malaysia. They were traveling everywhere. Let's make films from their work. Femi Oshofison has like 30 that are not yet being told. Tunde Kelani has made films out of 5 already. But we have loads and loads. Next slide, I'll get out of your face shortly. Next slide, please, sir. Let's move this. Yeah. All I will say here is stop competing. Collaborate. Don't compete. Directing is not a space of competition. Why? Because each story is individual. And the fact that you completed a film does not mean I cannot make one. But what we are lacking is expertise in the very areas that a true director needs partners. Many people are specialists. Vocational Reiki is a specialist role because he just does not go there and say, I have found something really big, you will like him. He understands the storytelling. Yeah? Production management is not about someone screaming on set and serving food from the boot of a car. No, it's paperwork. It's a whole document. It's not about shouting. It's not about the loudness. Leave that to the first assistant director. First ADs. My friend in LA is the first AD that's must have done like close to 40, 50 films. He's in his 70s now. He has never aspired to be a director. Why? It's not a civil service. You don't graduate from assistant director to director. You don't graduate from DOP to director. There are different roles. Different specific capacities and understanding. But you see, the reason people aspire to be a director is because they realize that when someone comes in, oh, there was a point you started calling and said, hello, director Femi. It's a good laugh. You can put DGN after your name, that's to say the guild you belong to. Well, we are title crazy, and that creates a problem because people who should be supporting us with their skills, whether it's a VFX supervisor or, or an acting coach, because they know that it's an hierarchy thing, we need to destroy that, people. I met James Brooks when I was a junior in college. I was an intern on the film Terms of Endearment, Jack Nicholson and Deborah Winger. Nobody passed away when James Brooks is coming. And James Brooks at that time had won up to 6 Academy Awards for Best Director. I tell you, that's where you understand my understanding of directing. Next slide. Those who care to often, I have a lot of friends in the industry, as you know, because I like to decompress. I separate my life, my work life is different. But those who come around, if they even laugh for 5 minutes, they eventually get to this question. How do I enter a festival? Well, if you have a viewer account, you can enter any festival. Question is, do you know why you are entering the festival. You know what kind of film you've made. What's the profile of the festival that film should be going? And have you done the things that you need to do in production for that film to actually be selected? So the festival strategy is not after making the film. You make the film with your festival strategy in mind. Next slide. Next slide, Sam. This is my final slide. And I do not mean any kind of disrespect. But if there is a next level, we have to get this adulation of money out of our head. A 10 million naira film, some serious collaborations and artistic intent can be better than a 50, a 500 million naira film. Budgets don't make film, creative decisions do. I pray one day we will ask, did that film travel? Did they go places where Nigeria was recognized for artistic excellence? Did they go places where it's programmed into the... That's my own ambition, right? But it's an ambition I cannot achieve alone. We have to work together to get it done. Did it create a new visual language? Our top directors need to answer that. That last one. Did it discover new talent? That's what I try to do in every series that I make. I combine the older actors, but I always try to find someone new. I think it's been very rewarding so far. Final slide. Thank you. Final slide. Thank you.
Final slide. Can we give a round of applause to Elias himself? I like the way that you subtly spoke to each of the slides. Thank you very much. So we'll just take maybe 2-3 questions. What do you think? Yes. So if you have a question, please just indicate. Okay. Going. All right. You want to step out of it, or how will this might get to you? So everyone can. All right. Thank you. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Judy, and I'm a producer. Yes, I'm not the director. I just liked the lineup of the teachers, and I thought to come here from them. There is always this conflict with the artistic side of the film and the commercial side of the film. Is it really impossible to bridge that gap? Could there be a film that satisfies both ends, that does well commercially and also has a deep artistic side to it?
Right, please. Why do you keep like most time? All right, they say the answer is yes. So next question. Okay, really, we don't for really far behind time. I'd just like to have us move to the next.
Invite the President of the Directors Guild of Nigeria, Mr. Uche Agbo, who will do us the honor of celebrating our facilitator. Thank you, sir.
Yes, please come. We have just something small for okay. Yes, your jollof rice. I want to. So during the National Film and Video Census Board Masterclass series, I sat down listening to his masterclass, and while this programming was going on, I kept on hammering on the head of program. Was like, Mr. Finney must have a masterclass. So if you like, do panel across. You must do a masterclass. And so I'm happy to, sir, please, just present this to you for all you do for the industry. Thank you very much. Yes. Nothing food, sir. All right, thank you.
All right, guys, thank you very much. Let's make progress. Move straight to the first part. And this time we'll be talking about from stock. This stock is S-T-U-C-K, not S-T-O-C-K. From stock to strategy. Yeah, because I know that a lot of us struggle with innovations and ideas. So the idea now is how do we move from there to strategy, making your next move as a director. Please, I'd like to invite the panelists, and then of course I'll hand over to the moderator who will do justice to this. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, world-acclaimed filmmaker, became a founding director recently. And I'm sure he has some stories to tell us about that much later. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Nigeria happened at some point, but it's fine. Please welcome the very prolific director, Obi Emelone, PhD. I saw one of his films when I was traveling one of these days in life, and I doubted that film was shot in Nigeria until I got to the end of the film. Like, wow, this is a filmmaker. Please a round of applause for Obi Emelone. Thank you. All right, also to join us on the panel, we have another very interestingly female filmmaker who did us very proud across the board. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the very delectable Uyuyo Adia. Please a round of applause for her. Uyuyo Adia, thank you. Thank you. We have a veteran filmmaker. That's why I have to come rest here anyway, so that I can get the blessings of the fathers, who again makes us very proud from the Southeast, and have become a global phenomenon to us. And I'm happy really because the younger generation are also studying not just the films now, they're also studying the filmmakers. I remember I saw one of these documentaries on that. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the very prolific veteran actor and director, Ugezu. Please a round of applause for him. Okay, you know I was talking about Thank you for all that you do for us. All right, we also have in the house a very energetic film director with us in the house. I hope he's still here. I think I saw him earlier, Mr. Yemi Morafa. Please a round of applause for Yemi Morafa. Thank you. You see there is a mix in the panel. Just to tell you, we at DGN were very forthright looking at how to balance, the trade. Of course, to have the last panelist join us, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Michelle Bill. Round of applause for Michelle Bill. Thank you. All right, so this is really balanced. Thank you. All right, to moderate this panel, please welcome our very own delectable Isioma Osaje. A round of applause for Isioma Osaje. Thank you. We have 30 to 45 minutes on this, and I just hit straight because of our time. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Hi. Right. So we'll get right into things. because now we're pressed for time, so the quicker the better. All right, so this panel session is from stock to strategy, making your next move as a director. So to kick things off, let's diagnose what being stuck means, right? So I'm going to ask our esteemed and very skilled directors a bunch of questions, and that's how we'll run through this. So, Dr. Obi, can a director be busy and still be professionally stuck?
Good afternoon, everybody. Every director at some point gets stuck. And what do we mean by stuck? It's creative inertia. For those of us who understand physics, inertia is the willingness to stay stationary when you are stationary, or the willingness to continue moving if you are in motion. So every director experiences that time when it looks like they're not being creative, it looks like everybody else is busy, it looks like the young people have taken over, it looks like they're going backwards, it looks like the industry has left them behind. But it's not a problem to be stuck. What becomes a problem is remaining stuck. So every director has to find a way to get out of that inertia, to start moving. And sometimes the greatest achievements are simply little acts of perseverance, little acts of consistency that accumulate over time. So inertia and creative slowness would always happen to everybody. But what do you do when things are very slow? You can learn, you can educate yourself, you can attend masterclasses, you could visit another set, you could find inspiration from somewhere, but just don't remain stuck, but don't beat yourself for being stuck, because everybody gets stuck.
Thank you very much. All right, so we all understand what being stuck is, right? So let's move swiftly on, right? So right now in Nollywood, right, we reward speed, we reward adaptability, but I mean, just like we've just heard in Mr. Femi's session, directors are also told to develop a distinctive voice, right? So Michelle, this question is for you. How do you serve a project without becoming creatively anonymous?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So in terms of serving projects, as a director, like Mr. Femi was just saying, we are the authors, right, of the project. When you were saying about speed, actually, I don't celebrate speed. I celebrate excellence. And just like Mr. Femi was saying, we need to take our time with our projects. I remember when I shot Flower Girl in 2012, and we had rehearsals, and we had Dami, Damilola, Crisato, they were on tinsel back then, and so they were used to, fast pace. Obviously, in the TV world, very different than the film. But I insisted for all of our actors, main actors, that we were going to have. It was about 2-3 weeks of rehearsals. They weren't used to that at all. Just like Mr. Ferry was saying, in the industry here is kind of like actors jump from one set to the other, and there's no time to actually prepare. But I insisted, I said, no. Even if you're going to be on Tinsel, which they were, obviously they had contracts with Tinsel, and they're very popular on that show, especially back then. That was like one of the biggest heights of Tinsel back then. I said, no, you still have to come for rehearsals. And they came for rehearsals, and we did all kinds of backstory for all the characters, developed the characters, they even did research, and I gave them homework as a director. And I said, okay, for your character, for Dami, for example, she was playing a florist. So I said, you're going to learn about flowers. You're not just coming here to read lines. You're coming here to develop a character, a believable person. So my aunt has a flower shop in Victoria Island. So she actually went there and actually started studying about flowers and floral arrangements, which was now part of the scene when we shot in Valgo. So we did that with all the actors. Crisato, he was playing a lawyer in the film. Again, he went to do research, and actually started working in a law firm just to get that understanding, for that character and build that character. So for me, it's very important, as the director, to really, from the creative aspect, the auteur aspect, for every single part of the production, for it to really enhance the vision of the story, and not just, okay, I'm just a director name, and face, and that's it. But it needs to embody, the creative expression needs to embody, not just from set design, costumes, but also from the acting and the characters as well.
Thank you very much. All right, this next question is for Nzing. All right, so please let's pass the mic to him. All right, so sir, we've moved from cassette tapes, VCDs, DVDs to television, cinema, streaming, and now YouTube-led distribution. Has this expansion given directors more power, or just simply created new gatekeepers?
Well, I may not readily understand what you mean by gatekeepers, and I like respecting everyone who is a creative in whichever standard you choose to operate on. That the market has expanded, it has not done any harm to the director who is a director by every definition of the word. It has actually expanded that director's ability to make more impact. Because the films we are making is just like writing a book. It is not just about making films. That is why I plead with people that are making films now for them not to make the same kind of mistake that our founding fathers made when it comes to presentation of who we are. Because when you make a film, you are not just telling a story because you have the dramatic license. You are actually creating a document that generations that are coming will actually see as a standard because it is in a film. Most of the damages that are done to the culture, even Femi was saying that when he was teaching, most of the damages that was done to our culture, they were done through films, because some of the founding fathers were filming things without verifying because nobody was asking the questions. And now we have the Gen Zs that have capitalized on all those things they have seen in films to believe that that was the standard. And we all know that is not the standard. And now we have a very big task trying to correct all those. So people that are making films now should help in the sense that before you do anything, you try as much as possible to verify that the things we are putting out are actually authentic. So we don't have to continue correcting. So that the cassette era has gone, the DVD era has gone. One way or the other, it has actually helped because some of those films that were badly made, you may not be able to find them now. Yes, you may not be able to find them because there are so many films that we have actually approached the owner of the film. You'll be so surprised. Some of them do not know where their masters are kept. And in that era of film on DV cam, you may not believe it, there were some executive producers that actually used their masters. The tape wherein their masters was actually saved. They have to use that same master to shoot a fresh film. So that, and they lost it. We have all these yes, we have all this. So some of those badly made films, they are nowhere to be found. But now we are in a digital era, whereby it has become practically impossible for you to say you cannot find something. One way or the other, you're going to find it. So when it has become increasingly easier to save things. People should be very careful what they document. So this era has not limited any director in any way. I mean the director who is a director by every definition of the word, because there are so many people that are directors that when you look at them, you discover they are actually not directors. Some of them came into the business of directing because they want to be known. And some of the guys came into the business because they want to have access to beautiful women. And and some of them came in because they believe they will make all the money. Eventually, when they get in, they discover it is not what it is. That money is not readily available the way they thought. And some of them, they fizzle out. But the director who has come to make an impact, one way or the other, you will discover that you will remain relevant, no matter what happens. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. All right, Yemi, this one is for you. So when we talk about emerging directors, should emerging directors specialize early or should they demonstrate range? What's your thoughts on that?
Good afternoon, everyone. I always say film is not void of the environment it's in. It's something I always say because this is Nigeria. If you come into the industry and you want to just become only a director and you want to have your own niche in quotes, it's going to be very hard for you. Unless maybe you have the money to actually make people dance and do what you have. If you want to come into this industry as an emerging director, you obviously need to be versatile. That's the word, yeah. You need to be able to do other things and you need to be able to understand what the industry wants from you. Because look at it this way. When I was shooting Battleground, when was showrunner. When I started shooting Battleground, that was television, so I didn't really understand it. I could barely shoot 7 scenes a day because I was getting into it. I'm like, what's going on here? Because television is a showrunner's medium, it's a producer's medium, and the director needs to get on it. So it was very difficult for me. The very first time I couldn't shoot up 7 scenes. By the time the season was ending, I was shooting 21 scenes a day. I didn't even know how, but I had to learn. I had to really get into it. There was a day that Filmmaking had this crazy issue with me, and he just threw his phone on the wall and was like, "You're not God on this set." And I'm like, my God, nobody has ever talked to me like that before. It was crazy. So I had to learn. I had to start understanding that efficiency, effectiveness is what they need. In Nigeria, if you are a fast director, you're good. If you're fast and effective, oh my God, you're something else. And if you're fast, effective, and efficient, you're a genius. So that's the way it is there. So you need to try and be, versatile, try and learn how to direct, especially for television. I always say that because television makes you grow. It helps you to grow. You understand what the producers want. You understand how your cameras are lined up. Then you can use your own creative input to now, blend everything. So I think emerging directors should actually, learn the ropes, unless, like I said, you have someone who's giving you funds or you're producing as well. Yeah, pretty much.
All right, thank you. All right, next question is for Uli. Hi, Uli. All right, so we're in Nigeria and we're in Nollywood, like everyone has said, and there is a lot of commercial pressure. That's, we can't deny, it's the industry we are in. So this commercial pressure, has it improved or weakened your storytelling? And please expand on whichever answer and why.
Good afternoon, everyone. Commercial pressure. I think it has. I'm in a space right now where I'm battling with both, where it feels like it's about to weaken it and it's about to strengthen it. And that's because, to a very large extent, as much as we are trying to tell stories and make impact, we are also trying to survive, right? And when you come into the industry and then you have someone or a group of people to entrust you with their funds and invest in your story or your vision. As much as you want to make a really good film that is impactful, you're also thinking, how am I going to return this money back? And when you eventually get your film to the cinema and it doesn't do what you hoped it will do, there are people that are waiting for you to return their money. Whether or not you made, I remember when I did live, before we got the Prime deal, we're sending information to the EPs about press, the festivals they got into, the AMA nomination and all of that. And one of them just wrote, okay, when is our money coming back? Like, as far as they are concerned, they need their money. But I'm there being stoked that I got a freaking AMA nomination. Like, what? But so that's where I think that I am now personally. The industry right now is very unstable when it comes to commercial success. You have over how many films going to the cinema in a year, and you can only boast of maybe 10 grossing a good amount of money. I don't think that is good enough. I think that's poor. But something I'm really trying to lean into now is to figure out how to get the audience to be interested in our films. Because I hear people say, oh, we don't have a cinema culture, or cinema culture is dying. I beg to differ. The fact that people will step out for 9 days and give Spider-Man 1 billion, people are watching films. But how do we make that translate for Nollywood? Right? Do we have to change? And I also do not blame the filmmakers that are making films for, in quote, commercial success. Because again, money has to somehow be made. Right? So we really need to figure out how to balance telling a great story that will bring the audience in and then also, make commercial success.
All right, thank you. Dr. Obi, this one's for you. So you've worked across Nigeria, the UK, you've sought international African stories. So do you think international reach is about changing the stories we tell, changing the packaging, or finding the right partners? Why do we seem to struggle as an industry with our reach internationally?
I would say that the average Nigerian film director is making a film for Nigeria. And I think that mindset matters. When you see films that have done well commercially in Nigeria and how they struggle outside of Nigeria, and you look at films that have had some kind of critical acclaim outside of Nigeria and they struggle in Nigerian cinema. Case in point will be Mami Water by my good friend, or even My Father's Shadow. They were very critically acclaimed outside of Nigeria, but in Nigerian cinemas, they really struggled. So that you now start to see a divide between what works in Nigeria and what works outside of Nigeria. And every Nigerian filmmaker is making films from money borrowed and blackmailed from investors and family, and they have to pay it back. So I don't really begrudge the fact that they focus on what works for Nigeria, because that's the primary market. But like Uncle Femi said, there is a growing need for Nigerian filmmaking to be intentional about what we do internationally. Unless we are, we'll continue to make films that work in Nigeria but struggle outside. So we have to make up our mind to say, this particular project, I'm going to take my time on it, and it's going to go to so and so places, and you plan that out, and hopefully it works. But if we make it just for Nigerian markets, it would work here, but I think it would struggle to travel.
All right, thank you. All right, next question is for Michelle. All right. So, still leaning on this international reach and the success thereof, you had something that many directors don't have, in that you had early phenomenal success, right? I mean, Flavia wasn't the first thing you did, but it was pretty early in your career and it did phenomenally well, like critically, commercially, etc. So how do you avoid being trapped as a director by the weight of expectations? Because if your first thing is a home run to say, how do you then continue to make things and not constantly use that first one as the pinnacle of success?
So my first film was Small Boy, and I shot that when I was 24 years old. I studied in America filmmaking, came back, and a few years later, I shot this film. And I was 24 years old, you know, on the streets of Ebuta Meta, shooting this film for 2 weeks. And it was literally, I took money out of my savings account to shoot the film. I knew it was going to be a festival film. It was a very arty film. And I knew it wasn't going to go to cinemas at the time. And so I just submitted it to festivals around the world. And then that's how I got nominated for 2 awards at the American Black Film Festival in LA. And next thing you know, I was traveling to LA and my film was screened in Beverly Hills Center. And, you know, the following year I won 2 AMA awards. And then that's what really launched me as a filmmaker in Nigeria. Then a few years later, I did my master's in film directing in America. I came back, and that's when I shot Flower Girl. And Flower Girl, I knew was going to be a commercial film. You know, from my experience with Small Boy, for me, Small Boy was more of my calling card. Because you're just starting out in the industry, you know, very few people want to give you money when you haven't shot anything at all, and you don't have a track record. And so I used Small Boy as my calling card. And then so when I did Flower Girl, you know, I was able to shoot that, and I knew it was going to go to cinemas, and it came out in cinemas, you know, 2013. And to glory of God, you know, it hit #1 here, and then we took it to the UK. It was, you know, it was released in the UK cinemas there. It was one of the first Nigerian films licensed by Netflix in 2014. And then it went all around the world to all kinds of festivals. Durban, it was in LA, it was all over the world. So it won international awards for the film, local awards, a whole bunch of AMVCA awards, you know, all kinds of nominations here as well. And then after that, silence. And for years, and people like, is Michelle still in the industry? You know, I took a break. Yes, I took a break. It was a lot, you know, going on. It was a lot. It takes out a lot of energy just marketing your film. But yeah, so I took a break kind of from the industry, and you know, got married, had kids, and everyone was just like, "Is Michelle still shooting the film?" But I never like submitted to that kind of pressure that a lot of people do. That, oh my goodness, you know, the next one has to be like epic. For me as an artist, I always challenge myself like that, regardless, you know, of the project. So each project I do as an artist, I want to be 10 times better than the last project. So for me, that's my own personal thing that I have for myself, regardless of, you know, the awards, how much money it makes, you know. So from Small Boy to Flower Girl, you can see the transition of me as an artist. You know, so every movie I've made, you know, other ones. I've made, I directed Before Valentine's, I was #1 on Netflix a few years ago. Family Basic, that was #1 on Prime as well, a couple of years ago. So, but every project I'm doing, I'm challenging myself to, you know, to be a better director, a better storyteller. So for me, it's not about the pressure that, oh my goodness, it has to be #1 on Netflix because my last one was, you know, obviously that's what we hopefully pray for. But for me, it's about the story and telling the best story I can and always pushing the barrier. So that's how I process it.
All right, thank you. So next question is for Nze. All right, so you built a body of work that is grounded in Igbo culture and tradition, right? And you started off in Nollywood when home videos were really a thing. It always feels like sometimes we learn the wrong lessons from the things that came before us. So what do you think the newer generation misunderstands about the speed and discipline of the home video era versus now?
I think I would partly answer that question already. In the sense that I already said it, that making a film is just like writing a book. It is something that is supposed to inform, it is supposed to entertain, and it's supposed to educate. When the three elements are not contained in the film, it becomes a problem. And we have a generation now that they are learning so fast. And the digital space happens to be a space whereby anything that is not challenged becomes a norm to them. They believe that it is the standard. And that is why, personally, it is something that is very personal to me, because I am not happy that my own Igbo culture happens to be the one that got bastardized the most by the Nigerian filmmakers. And most of the people that were making those films were actually not Igbos. They were not Igbos. They do not understand anything about our tradition. They do not understand anything about our spirituality. They do not understand anything about our tradition. Just because the thing was selling and was giving them money, and they kept feeding a lot of things that had no place in the tradition. And nobody was challenging that. And now we have a very serious task, trying to show the world that all these things they have been watching, they are not part of our tradition. They have no place in the tradition. So I believe that we have a generation of younger ones who are actually beginning to understand that what they have spent all their life learning, they have to unlearn all of them so that they'll be able to learn the real thing. And the onus of doing that largely is on the neck of the filmmaker. And that is why when I am invited to a place like this, and I believe I am going to be addressing young filmmakers, I feel like dropping whatever thing I have just to go there and see if it is only one person I manage to speak to, and that one person gets what I am saying. I feel that I have actually achieved something. So it is not just about making a film. It is about creating a narrative that generations that are coming after you will most likely see as a standard. Will most likely see as that is how it should be. So if you are making, you have the opportunity to make a film now, try as much as possible to present what is genuine, present what we can fall back on, present something that an average Igbo person or any culture you want to represent will feel very happy about. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
Yes.
And then again, I want to say something important, because I've sat in a lot of panels where this issue of Nigerian films not making it so big in cinemas, where that discussion comes up. And I want us to understand something. It has something to do with the state of our economy in Nigeria. There is no reason a country as big as Nigeria cannot be framed to run on 24-hour system. Like my brother Obi Emeloye, who lives in the UK, will agree that people, when they go to work in the UK, maybe they work for like 8 hours, and then they go back. When they go back, they sleep, because the economy is running for 24 hours. Is there any reason that cannot be activated in Nigeria if our political leaders are thinking right? Because if they are thinking right, and that kind of system is working in Nigeria, some people will go to work around 4 p.m. and then when they will finish around 2 a.m. maybe, and then they will go and sleep. Maybe when other people are going to whatever in the morning, they are going to watch films in cinemas. The system runs that way because people have time. They must create time for recreation if there is employment, if people are working and they are resting, as economy should function. Nigerian economy is not functioning how an economy should function, and it is affecting the cinema. So nobody should actually blame the filmmaker. It's not as if the filmmaker is not making a good film. It's not as if the filmmaker is not doing what the filmmaker should do. There is a system problem. And until we tackle that system problem, we may still be where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Uli, since the mic is coming to you. All right, so you work as both a writer and a director, right? Would you say your writing has helped you gain agency over your directing opportunities, or it's just one of those things? In other words, has the writing been an asset as a director?
Yes. Writing has definitely helped me better as a director. And I like to write, but I started noticing that I don't like to write outside of what I want to do. Yeah. Because writing is a lot of work. Writing is a lot of it's not just the brain work, it's a lot of creative work. And I think that as a if I'm just a writer and I'm not a director, if you hire me as a writer, I might, write according to what you are telling me to write for. But the fact that I'm a director, I also think about the story as a director. So there are things that I might not necessarily agree with. When you give me a job as a writer, and there are things that I might want to enhance and you do not want to. And I'm getting to a point where I'm very particular on where my name or what my name is on as a writer or as a director. At this point, I'm just like, I can go hungry for a couple of years as long as as long as my name, is on something that I would be proud of. So yes, as a writer, it helps. There are times where I write and I'm directing, I'm just like, who wrote this script? Because again, I've gone into a point where I'm not the director and I'm looking at it like, who sent this writer message? Because I can see what it is doing to production as well. So yes, as a writer, it has helped me a lot to be a better director, and as a director, it's helped me a lot to be a better writer. They work perfectly. In sync for me.
Okay. Right. So final question for Yemi. Who currently has more influence over a Nigerian film? The director, the producer, the platform, or the audience? And who do you think should have the most influence?
It's not set up for. Okay. Yeah, no. Okay. Film is a director's medium, first things first. So it's a director's film. I'm not talking about television. I'm not talking about documentary. I'm talking about film for cinema, for the big screen. So obviously, the director should have much more influence. However, that's where it goes funny. However, you have a producer, you have an executive producer, you have the audience, you have the actors, you have the platform. Right now, we are in the actors era. The actors, because they have social media following, because they have numbers, they are the ones that basically carry the film. And that's why you see most actors are now producers. When we made Ginger, we had 4 female actors as executive producers and producers. So they had the power, they had the weight of of influencing stuff. But because I am hard-headed sometimes, I had to say, this is what I'm going to do. They kept on asking me questions. How are you going to do this in post? I'm like, leave that to me. You just act. That's what you're here to do. So I think it's for a director, if you're given a script or you're given the opportunity to direct a script, like a beautiful script, you need to take the product to a competitive stage, to a place where you know that once I'm done with this film, you give it back to the producer, back to the EPs, back to the actors, and they can take it anywhere and basically put their money where their mouth is, because it is you doing that work of art, you presenting that work of art to them and say, I've done my job, I finished it, you guys take it and go and market it. So it basically means that the influence is across board. It cannot just be one person. It cannot just be one entity. It has to be across board, because they have to give you the creative freedom to make a film. You give them the freedom to actually market the film. So it's across board, and this setup of the question
All right, so this is the final question for the panelists, right? I want all of us to answer it. So Yomi, please pass your mic to Michelle. I'll give mine to Dr. Obi, and everyone will weigh in on this final question. So this question of directors, because first and foremost, you're all directors, you may do a bunch of things too. Is it possible to build a sustainable career as a director? Now, sustainable, I'm also talking financially, but also artistically, without becoming a producer. All right, Michelle, you go first, and then Dr. Obi will go, and then we end up with Lindsay. I believe with God all things are possible. So yes, it is possible. And it's about, picking the right projects as well, and working on the right projects and creating a sustainable system. So if you're going to do X amount of movies, or a TV series a year, you plan and prepare for that. So of course, you can create sustainable models as a director that you can, know that, okay, you have your expenses covered, you can make a living, a good living. So yes, I think it is possible. Is it challenging? That's a different topic, but yes, it is possible.
I think personal development is something that we need to look at as directors. A lot of our directors are not prepared for old age. And I'll tell you this story. My dad went to the UK in 1956 and did a diploma, came back, became very desirable, worked at the highest level, but he never improved on that degree in spite of his experience. Fast forward 1995, I was at university, 1986, I was at university, and he was trying to get a job at Imo State University, where one of his students was now vice chancellor. He couldn't get the job because he didn't have a piece of paper, in spite of the considerable experience that he had. That's why I went and did a PhD, not because I needed one. But I would rather, it's like condom, it's better you have it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you can navigate the industry as a director. However, I think that you should, like what we have said, I think that you should have, I think it would be irresponsible for you to have one source of income. I think it would be totally irresponsible. I think you should have something that you're doing on the side, especially if you're not the type of director that is readily available for any filmmaker, because there are a bunch of filmmakers now doing YouTube, and the YouTube space is, oh god, it's crazy. So if you're not that type of filmmaker where you don't know how to navigate the YouTube world, because they have it's almost like it's some sort of machinery when it comes to YouTube. You have to shoot under a certain amount of days, then maybe you edit for 2-3 days, then you go to the next film. So if you cannot navigate that system, you need to have something else that you're doing. Then you need to be able to, like what we said, develop yourself. I mean, there are too many things you can actually do. You can aspire to become a producer, aspire to become, just basically develop yourself, because if you do not, like who you said, you can go hungry for years, and that's the absolute truth. Yeah, and that's the absolute truth. So you need to, from my own experience, you need to have like another source of income. It will be irresponsible for you not to have. Yeah.
Okay, so for me, I think that a lot of us come into the industry without fully understanding what we want to do and who we are. I think that when we are entering the industry, it's important to know who you are and what you really want to do in this space. Like what Uncle Femi was saying, being an AD and being a director and being a producer, there are different roles. It is not a promotion or a graduation ceremony. For the longest time, I've had the feeling, I've done it a few times, but I know that I can produce. But am I going to? No. Because that's not my office. That's not my calling. That's not what I want to do. That's not what if I have to do something else, that's not the next thing I want to do. the thing that helps me as a director creatively is being a writer, and that's where I found myself. Producing is not easy. I look at Mama J every day and I'm like, God bless you, but this is not for me. I don't know why you people want to produce, because to the best of my knowledge, a producer literally makes the entire thing and they are like the most thankless people that do the job, right? They are probably even very, 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 very much underpaid as well, right? So I think that getting into the industry, people need to know, okay, this is what I am coming in to do. It's okay to have other like side gigs because again, like Daddy has said here, economy is not smiling, right? Because Nicole, and I like to say this thing a lot. We watch films and because we see the product, we don't care about the process of how that film was made. The process of making a film is very important, and the person to who responsible for that is the producer. It's very easy to watch a film and you can tell that, oh, this film was made with a lot of love, or there was a lot of love on this set, or people just cared about each other on this set. And it's very easy to watch a film and know the set that was chaotic. You can see it from the film. So I think that I'm talking about this producer bit because first of all that's the question, and secondly I think that people need to understand that being a producer is not just in the title. You have to actually produce and produce well. So thank you.
Okay, I understand being a producer from two different ways. One of the ways is the one that she just defined. That is the producer that got hired to function strictly as a producer. That means it is actually possible that another producer hired that producer to function. Then I equally understand the producer to be the one who actually produces the movie. That is a producer. And that is the kind of producer I personally believe that every director should be. Because they're simply waiting for him or her to be hired by someone to go and direct a movie. That director, to the best of my knowledge, is not a DGN member. Member of the Directors Guild of Nigeria, automatically producer. If you are not one yet, you should be aspiring to be, because you should be able to organize a production that you know that it is your own. That is what makes you a filmmaker. You are not just a filmmaker because you sit in your house and make sure that all your phones are charged. Waiting for someone who will that is not the best thing. You should be able to wait, and then if nobody is calling you, you begin to make calls. And people should come and begin to do something and you are the one in charge. So I feel that every director should be a producer by that definition of mine, and not that other definition of wicked and good. Thank you.
Please let's give a round of people and panelists a round of applause. Thank you very much. I don't know if we allow questions or sorry, sir. Or just the questions. Okay. So we will need a person that will very deny. So if you have a question, can we see your hand up? So we have one. Who is our second question from?
Okay, so we have this.
Yeah, on the same room, yeah. So please be sure to tell us your name and get to the question in a speedy manner. We know you enjoyed the session. Just ask the question. Thank you. And let us know if it's for one panelist specifically mention their name or if it's whoever wants to answer well.
Good afternoon. I'm Ayan Benadine, and I'm a emerging director. My question goes to
The man with the dreadlock.
yes. Sir, you said something about emerging directors that are trying to build a style, and that is versatile at the same time. do you not think that's the reason why Nollywood we are behind technically? Because most emerging directors have this passion of maybe competing the international standard, but due to the system that is being put in place, some of them are being discouraged. I've met a lot of filmmakers that when I shared my idea with them, they'll be like, this is what I wanted to do so and so year when I started, but I felt it is impossible. But when I discuss with them, they'll see as if this is very, very possible. And the way nature has it is that you may have the means, I may have the ability. It's very hard to someone that has both the means and the ability in the same place. Now, being whatever, or let me say, don't you think that this is the reason why we are still behind technically?
All right, I think that's clear now.
You understand?
No. What he would think.
Yeah.
But let's just take the second question. I think we've answered the question. Let's take the second question.
All right. My name is Josiah Jukes. I'm a filmmaker as well. My question is, since you started talking, no one has diverted into the business side of filmmaking. Because recently I noticed most people making films now, they have to dance. Some have to, do some skits to promote it. So I want to ask, because one of the basic thing about people sponsoring now, an EP does not have a business, especially when it's an EP that is invested for the first time. It doesn't want to know how you go. My own is, how much am I getting? When am I getting it back? So my question now is, can you dwell on the business side? What are you doing to sell your business? And that goes to Mr. Obi and Mr. Ogezu.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of rambling in that question. However, if you're being the storyteller as a director, then this industry is not for you. You need to. The first thing I said when I answered that question was, film is not void of the environment it's in. You need to understand. You need to understand the environment. You need to understand the film industry first as a director before you. And I think that's what we were saying just a minute ago. You need to understand the industry. You need to know what you want to do. You need to understudy people. You can't just jump into it, because if you just jump into it, you might get dragged. So you need to understudy people. You need to learn the terrain first. Of course, you get discouraged. However, you need to forge on. You need to forge ahead. You need to really, really listen, and then look at people. Look for mentors. People that will talk to you about filmmaking. People that will talk to you about directing. People that will talk to you about the art, the commercial side of it. It's not just one. This is my idea, and I'm very staunch on it. No, you need to actually understand the terrain before you venture into film or as a director in Nigeria. So it doesn't affect yes, you're asking if it affects us technically. It does not. The industry, like what we said earlier on, the industry, the way we make films in Nigeria, a lot of Nigerians make films for Nigerians, and you cannot blame them, because locally, for you to be able to be hired for the next film, your film has to be some sort of, a blockbuster. So you're only as good as your last film, and that's the absolute truth. So it really doesn't affect us technically.
It's the same for the actor.
Yeah, of course, same for the actor. Yeah. And I think the next question
was business.
Yeah, it's not for me, but it's more of a producer's question. So
yes, it's for the PGA and AMPA, AMP.
But they are both producers. So
yeah. The question shall be answered by you.
Well, the issue actually is we have partly answered that question.
Yeah.
Because the economic framework in Nigeria is affecting practical investment. I don't know why we are trying to bring it down to the entertainment industry. Just the same way we have crisis everywhere in almost all the departments of Nigeria. But because of entertainment, once there is any small crisis in entertainment, because we are on the limelight, they want to blow it out of proportion. Why are you people dying every day? I say people are not in other fields. If you don't have any policemen that die every day, you shout. If you don't have any bankers that die every day, you actually scream. Even pastors. If you know the number of pastors that die every day, you're going to scream. But nobody hears about it because they are not on the limelight. Nollywood people are on the limelight, so any small thing blows out of proportion. And that may be the reason we are trying to pin this one down now. The economic narrative in Nigeria is not favoring anyone. And that is why somebody will call me, I want to make a movie. I am not one of those people that are eager to allow an investor to bring money to make things. No. I have people that are ready to give me money. If I demand for money, that they will float my account. But how do you give them back their money? If you don't have, yeah, because I know that I have no guarantee of how to give them back that money. And where I came from, we have a proverb, that simply means if the gods are not allowed you to become so big, they just remain the way you are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a round of applause for thank you, director. All right, so thank you everyone. To wrap things up, directing is not easy. Play the long game. You are building a career. It's not just one film, it's your body of work. Thank you very much.
All right, let's celebrate our partners program. Where's the president, Mr. Uche Agbo? Yeah, so we take an official photograph. Please can you come to us? Where's the president, please? Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. This year, man, that was brilliant. The moderator was Thank you. Obi, PhD. Thank you so much, Yo-Yo. And thank you, Gezu. Thank you. Rafa, thank you, Michelle. It would be nice to have you back here. And Carter and the shots. Thank you so very much. Yeah. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we'll really press for time. You know, this is a cinema, so I'm sure from 5 or so, 6, people will probably want to come in to watch some film. So the earlier we get this done, the better for us. So I'll go straight to Judith. Where's Judith? Please join me. Join me, please. We need to get this done. We're moving to the second panel. And that's who is working for the director. If you can please help us change the slide. Yes, that's it. No, who is working for the director? Do you have that? Yeah. Is that it? No? Look for it. Okay, this is it. Yes. Who is working for the director? Julie, you can hold the second one. That's right here. All right. Let's set it down, please. All right. Who is working for the director? Is it the agents, the managers, the representation, the policies, the regulations, or are we actually building a sustainable career? I think this last panel also made a bit of a mention of this. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome the panelists. We have from the National Film and Video Census Board, the Executive Director, Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Shaibu Hussein, who is ably represented by the Director of Corporate Affairs, Mr. Obuna Onumere. Please a round of applause for Mr. Obuna. Can you introduce the next person? Go ahead, Judith. Go ahead. The next.
All right, we'll be coming on stage the able director of DGN, the director of the Directors Guild, the president of the Directors Guild of Nigeria, Mr. Uche Agbo, please to the stage.
All right, great, Mr. Uche Agbo joining us. We also have, please allow me to introduce the last person. You go to the next. And that's the head of Kukuru. This is a man over my early years. I used to play music in my early days. If some of you know that part, I played with Sammy Nido. I don't know Sammy Nido, Sammy Obuso, Sammy Nido, and all that. So Eddie Lawani, was like a god. Because there's no way you go to any of these shows, you find Eddie Lawani there with his maker. I hope he wears trousers now. He's always wearing one maker. Who is this man? And he's remained in the business till date. You want to hear from that kind of man. Ladies and gentlemen, the veteran himself, Eddie Lawani. Thank you very much. Yes, it's a round of applause. I'm sorry. Yes, please go ahead when it comes.
So while we wait for Mr. Eddie, I'm going to be inviting on stage as one of our panelists. If you are following social media very well, this is an entertainment lawyer that has been educating Nollywood on a lot of things, intellectual property and every single thing that you need to do so you don't make mistakes on your contract. And she's very vocal. She shares very freely, and a lot of people have benefited from her on social media. If you're not following her, you should. On Instagram and LinkedIn, she's always sharing information. And please welcome on stage one of the foremost entertainment and intellectual property lawyer, Omotayo Inakoju.
Thank you very much. And of course, I saw an Uncle D. Lawani. Yes, please, can we fetch him? Let's get him. Maybe he's doing right comments. All right. And of course, to moderate this panel, that's another veteran, evergreen, a creative entrepreneur.
We have one more panelist. He's also a lawyer. This topic handles a lot on intellectual property, so we got a lot of lawyer for you. Please joining us is Mr. Oluwatobi Adelusi.
Yes, legal. Yes, thank you. Okay, so to moderate this panel, we have a creative entrepreneur, evergreen, actor, writer, author, or I think of very or tier. Did you hear that? Or tier. Yeah, these are the real tiers because they've stand through the test of time over the years. Ladies and gentlemen, the very delectable, evergreen stallion elegant, Lillian Amar. I know Eddie Lomano was complaining about the time. I hope he has not left us. Please, Judith, kindly find out. All right, thank you very much. Take the shots. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's session of the Directors Week Workshop Series, Who is Working for the Director? When the director sets out to create a film, they bear the ultimate artistic and narrative vision. However, executing that vision and transforming it into a viable commercial product requires a robust, complex support system. Here in Nollywood, our ecosystem is evolving at an unprecedented pace. We are rapidly transitioning from informal handshake arrangements towards structured legal protections, strict regulatory compliance, global digital distribution models, and international standards. Yet, a vital question remains for every filmmaker in this room: who is truly protecting and championing the director's best interest? As we can see, DGN has assembled an exceptional lineup of industry leaders to dissect the commercial and regulatory machinery of our business. So let's get to it. I'm going to start with our chief host, the president of the Directors Guild. Mr. President, as president of the DGN, how is the Guild actively moving the needle to ensure that production companies and executive producers fully respect both a director's creative authority and their financial rights on set?
Thank you. First, welcome, and once again, thank you for joining the panel. If I had my way, I would prefer not to be in the panel. But to answer your question, it's just like saying, how much are we ready to fight with the producers? Because for every of the things you have said, your question deals towards the director stamping his creative authority. The challenge has always been to be able to balance between creative authority and what is possible. And in our case, our producers are often not very transparent in telling us exactly what is possible. Because it is difficult to find a producer who will tell you how much budget he's actually working with. Sometimes when a producer tells you, I'm working with XYZ, it's plus or minus maybe 30 more, especially if it's a commission project, maybe it's 100% more So that's the bigger issue. So what we are currently working on is, first, we're trying to put our house in order. Because for you to have the moral, standpoint to negotiate anything, you must come from a united front. So what we have been able to do so far, we're working on trying to put together what we call the barest minimum, upon which we cannot negotiate. We're trying to put together currently a committee that will work on what exactly should be the barest minimum a director should earn in terms of depending on the level of production. In our case, if it's like Hollywood, there are, you can use budgeting to do those things. But here, because nobody's really telling you the actual budget, we're now looking at different tranches of production. If you're working for the YouTube, for the television productions, this is what we're expecting. If you're working for the big projects like going for the cinemas, streaming, this is what we're trying to expect. So what we are currently actively doing is to put our hands in order and say, okay, based on the economic realities, this is what should be the barest standard or barest minimum. Now that also includes the barest minimum that the director should have in terms of pre-production. So that you don't call a director today and tell him to start the production tomorrow. Because if you needed that director, you ought to have involved the director from the first day you want to make the film, and not just wake up today and tell the director come. So we're also looking at the barest minimum in terms of the amount of time that the director would need for pre-production. If we agree that it's going to be a week or 2 days or 3, whatever we agreed eventually, right? That will work for both ways. So that's the first thing we're doing, to put our house in order, to define these things. And then we can now come on board and maybe now begin to meet stakeholders like the Association of Movie Producers. This is our proposition. This is what, so if an AMP member is going to be working with a DGN member, this is the barest we expect. If, which is the marketers, going to be working with a DGN member, this is the barest, so we can negotiate. It's always open for negotiation. If the, an FDAN, that is the Film Distributors Association of Nigeria, is going to be distributing a film made by a DGN member, this is the barest. And then we're also looking at the possibility of sell-on extra payment. Now, it's still very difficult to talk about royalties in Nollywood, very difficult. But we are looking at the possibility of doing sell-on. So if you come to me and say, this movie is meant to go to YouTube, we write an agreement that says for YouTube. And tomorrow I wake up and it's on TV. How much percent am I supposed to get extra? Because that is the sell-on, that's a secondary market. So we're also looking at those variables, but at the current state, that is what we're doing. Then on the other side, we're also trying to educate our members in terms of understanding that there's a need for contracting, and also be able to prepare yourself, because for a director to really negotiate, you have to be a director that a producer really needs. Otherwise, if you're not bringing if you don't have the capacity, the producer can move on to another person. So, but the producer will stick to being with you because he believes you have the capacity. So, in-house too, we're doing a lot of capacity building to ensure we're positioned to do a lot of capacity building so that the directors are better prepared in all of these things. So, and we also have a legal advisor now. So, it's also part of what we're doing to ensure that the legal advisor is in a good position to address, advise directors when they need it. In fact, if any member of ours decide to reach out to us and say, I need the legal support, we have a legal advisor already who can always refer to. So those are some of the things we're currently doing, putting our house in order, defining these things before we now move on to the part of negotiation.
Thank you, Uche. That was quite illustrative. My next question was meant for Eddie, but I'm going to give him time to settle in. You're good? Okay, great. So let's progress. Nollywood has historically bypassed traditional talent management services or structures. From your perspective at Kukuruku Incorporated, what does the strategic manager or creative architect do for a director's long-term brand equity that a guild or lawyer simply cannot handle?
Okay, I will say what the strategic plan for a director by a management team would do. And I wouldn't separate it from what a guild lawyer can do because it's synergy. I've been involved with talent management for over 25 years. And I always tell people that you get to a point as a talent, and what you need is not just a manager, but management. And management comes as a package of pockets of competencies. So there are people who can be your public relations manager, somebody can be your finance manager, you have your legal advisor, and then somebody is looking at your business affairs. So it's a team, it's more of a process rather than just one person doing everything. So having laid that foundation, I would say that strategic talent management involves understanding the competence of the person you are. For example, from managing talent, and I say I have managed one or two directors where I was called into a room to do something in Egypt, in Morocco, in Ghana, and I would say, this is the person I want to pitch for. I have to be able to say, why are you the person that we are putting forward? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What is your level of experience? What is your exposure? What is your track record? It's like taking a footballer, just because they play for anybody, they can play for Barcelona. Maybe it is true you can play for Barcelona, but are there areas this person has not refined that you need to work on? So it's not just important, it's not just a case of, I know you're a director, and then I turn a blind eye to what your weaknesses are. I won't be able to market you to the fullest as I should be able to if I know your weakness and it can be polished. Some directors have done great jobs doing epics or doing some hyper-local stories. Why would I go and pitch you for a job that is all about science fiction, for example, where your knowledge about special effects or understanding how stunts are done is not quite up to speed, because you are going against other people who also want that particular job. So I would say, in managing somebody or a director, especially strategically, you need to know the broad scope of what their competence is. What are they interested in? There are some stories that you pitch directors to do. Once they do it, that will be about the only thing they will ever be called for. Oh, he's good for action movies. He's good for epics. He's good for sports stories or for documentaries. How do you, as a director, want to make position? What is your strength? What can you stand up for? When you agree on that broad spreadsheet of your definition and your essence, then everything that is being done, which you call the packaging, has to follow that, line of thought, and that is the cumulative plan becomes a strategy in the short term, in the medium term, and in the long term. So it has to be very deliberate, but you cannot build that on nothing. It has to be built on truth, verifiable track record, and then a commitment by the director to a mission that both of you are on the journey together. I've seen directors who get picked, and before the job is over, they're falling out with their management team, and then nobody's speaking for you. Somebody has called me before from Italy, and he said, there's a director in Nigeria who want to work with, but this is what we're hearing about him. Can you confirm or otherwise? And I said, well, I do not know him personally. I can ask questions, but if the information you have is better than what I have, you make your decision. I didn't want to be in a position to say yes or no because I didn't have that for a fact. But that is a case of call it reputation damage. And maybe what they heard about the director negative is true, maybe it's not true. But if you have a consistent strategic plan, whether you're working now or you're on holidays or you have not worked for 2 years, there is a steady optics of what the public sees about you. that they can verify. Steven Spielberg does not direct a film every year, but there's something good to be said about him that recommends him for the next job or for the job after.
Thank you very much. Directors, I hope you're all taking this in. Okay, let's come to Omotayo. Omotayo, many directors sign contracts simply to get the job, frequently signing away their intellectual property in today's modern Nollywood. What are the top 3 non-negotiable clauses an entertainment lawyer must fight for in an independent director's contract?
Thank you so much for that question. And I want to appreciate DGN for this opportunity, because most times we have these conversations and we forget to invite a lawyer to speak. And it is very, very important for you to understand your intellectual property, for you to understand the extent of your right as a director. So now to the question, when it comes to contract, the first thing you need to understand to help you negotiate anything is actually your bargaining power. Who are you bargaining with? Who is the other party? Who is the producer that you're bargaining with? And what is it that is your yes? What is it that is the barest minimum that you can agree to? And most times what directors do is, once they get the contract, they just flip to the payment part and be like, oh, I told them I wanted 10 million. I hope it's 10 million that is there. And the unfortunate part is that that payment is just the minority of what you should actually check when it comes to the importance of the terms in your contract. Because even the payment itself, you are not even negotiating it well. So you only look at the payment, okay, they agreed to 10 million, but you forget to ask questions like, this 10 million they are talking about, how do they intend to pay it? In how many installments are they paying it? When your contract says, oh, we'll pay, okay, upon execution of contract. Now you've executed the contract, it's 3 months, it's 4 months, because the contract is not clear. But by simply putting within 30 days of executing the contract, once 30 days pass, you know that, okay, now they are in breach. But for you, you just see 10 million, you're excited. But how would the 10 million be paid? That's one. This 10 million, does it include taxes? Does it include VAT? Does it include withholding? Right? That's another thing. Because if it's inclusive of taxes, it will impact how much will get to you at the end of the day. So you need to clarify, okay, I'm getting 10 million. If this is inclusive of taxes, then help me mark it up by 2%, by 5%, so that by the time the tax is deducted, my fee is not impacted. Now they've engaged you for 15 days, but there is an issue. You need to do a reshoot for another 15 days. What happens? Is that inclusive in your 10 million? But to you, okay, my fee, 10 million is correct, but it's beyond that. And that's why you need a lawyer, not just a regular lawyer. I know in every family, everybody has a lawyer. If your uncle is not a real estate lawyer, your auntie is somewhere in oil and gas. But do they understand entertainment law? Do they understand films? Because there's even difference between films and music. You can say, oh, both are in entertainment. Oh no, they are different. They work differently. Yeah? So that's the first one. Of course, your payment. And when we're talking about payment, it goes beyond just the fee. Then number 2 is creative control. I think I've listened to the panelists, especially the panelists, the panel session that just finished. They dwell so much about creative control because at the end of the day, for a director, creative control is very, very important. But when we understand that the way filmmaking is structured in Nigeria, there are a lot of people that have stake in production. We're talking about the producers, we're talking about the executive producers, and these people also want to make decisions. It could be creative, it could be otherwise. But there are a lot of things that impact creative decisions, like your budget. For example, if a director feels that, oh, we need to hire a jet to do this, but your producer will be like, where, how, where do you want to get the money? Of course, this does not necessarily impact, of course, it will impact the creative, like, oh, if they are coming down from a jet, it tells the story better, but we can't afford that. What we can do is a Bentley. So for you as a director, you need to look at your contract critically and be like, when it comes to creative control, who has the power? Is it you, the director, or is it the producer? Yeah, is it even the executive producer? So you need to clarify, and sometimes it's not all about you winning. It could be that, okay, if I can't get the final decision making right, can I get a consultation right? Meaning you need to consult me when you want to make changes to the story. You need to consult me when I've done my director's cut and you want to recut the film. You need to consult me when you are changing the main actors. You need to consult me when it comes to how my credit is placed in the film. So sometimes it's not all about I need to win, I need to win. You need to understand the value you are bringing on board. You also need to understand the importance of what you making decisions regarding the film means to you. So that's the second thing. Then the third thing that you need to consider is actually your credit. So I worked on a project recently, and you know the way you see, oh, a Chris Nolan film, and the director came and said, oh, I want a so film. And the producer, in this case, the producer was my client, not the director. And the producer also insisted that, oh, because of the nature of the story of those films, we cannot actually give this person a a Omotayo Enokoju's film. Rather, we can say directed by so person. To you, it might not make a difference, but that prompted me to do a research, like what's really the difference between a Omotayo Enokoju Queen's film and directed by Omotayo Enokoju. And by the time I did the research, it actually takes a lot for you to get Omotayo Enokoju film, because you must have been involved creatively from the beginning, from the story. You must have also contributed to maybe casting of the film and a whole lot. So it's not something that you can just wake up and say you want this, so. So how would your credit appear on the film? Would it be on all the promotional contents that is being pushed out? Would it be the first once the film starts? Like, how exactly do you want your credit? And if credit is not given to you, what are the steps that you can take? Because most times, I also do it for producers that I represent. I would say the fact that your credit was mistakenly missed out will not constitute a breach of the contract. However, my client will take reasonable steps, right, to address the issue. So that's why it's very, very important for you as a director to have a lawyer that understands film business and also understands intellectual property, because that lawyer will be in the best position to help you negotiate your contract appropriately. And finally, please, termination, very, very important, very, very important, because you shot 70% of the film and they come back to say, no, we don't like what you have done. What happens to all the shots that you have? Can they still use it? Is it their property? Then what are the notice period that is required to terminate you? Then do you even have a cure right? If they say you've done this wrongly, do you have a specific period of time for you to cure that issue? Or they can just wake up and say, we no longer need your services, and that's it. So these are some of the important things that comes from.
Thank you, Omotayo. That was very instructive. Before we come to our regulators, let me just go stick with the legal people. Oluwatobi, because most Nollywood directors operate as independent freelancers rather than formal studio employees, They often sign contracts as individuals. From a commercial law perspective, why is it critical for an independent director to formalize themselves as a corporate entity, like an LLC, before pitching to big investors or international platforms? And what specific legal liabilities does this shield them from?
Thank you very much for this opportunity once again. I appreciate it as KS leader. So under corporate commercial law, I want to try as much as possible to give us the legal terminologies for these things. Under corporate commercial law, there is something referred to as corporate liability and legal personality, meaning a company is recognized under the law as an artificial person, distinct and separate from its owner. My learned friend here will also agree with me on the famous case of Solomon versus Solomon. Like the name of the case says, it's Solomon against his company, Solomon Inc. So for a director, one of the ways by which you would actually protect your interests is incorporating a company and pursuing engagement through that company rather than by yourself. Some of the liabilities due to corporate personality, some of the liabilities that you would have otherwise incurred personally, it's your company that would help you shoulder such responsibilities. It is very important when you are entering into your director's agreement for it to be stated there that yes, you are the owner of the company. However, it's between the distributor or the producer and your company. It's a way by which you could protect yourself from personal liability. Let it be the company. And to that extent, you also create what we call a corporate account where your payments will be made. And for directors to ensure that they get the best in terms of commercial remuneration for their work, it's also very important for them to look at the fine print of their agreements. Like Motayo has, explicitly said, everything she said, very, very important. The termination, the compensation structure. And since directors are creative and they are creative leads, it's very important to look at the fine print of the contract to see where the creative control lies and to also see how the remuneration vis-a-vis the creative control happens. So the simplest advice I can give with regards to the question is very simple. I would advise, not everybody that can do it. You should also, like Mr. Gezo had said earlier, don't do pass yourself, basically. don't do more than yourself. Very watchful of what your capacity can actually carry. But I would advise, engage with companies through an incorporated interliability company.
Thank you. We now come to regulators. Mr. Bonaya, Dr. Hussein has strongly championed building stronger distribution frameworks and capacity initiatives within Nollywood. How can directors work proactively with the Nigerian Film and Video Census Board to ensure their content scales globally while navigating classification guidelines smoothly?
Good day all. First of all, I need to apologize for the inability of my executive director, Dr. Shabu Husseini, to be present here. He had an assignment. Really, the board under Shaibu has been doing a lot to ensure that distribution to be. The directors, we have direct contact with them. And again, we also recognize the guilds and associations as they belong to the groups. If, for instance, a member or you are not a member of an association and want to bring your film for classification what we do, we offer those that are members first time ability to present their films
But you who is not a member you're not a member or director, you cannot present your film, you cannot make a film for presentation. And moreover, the board is also opening up in different places to ensure that the films are distributed openly. Encourage people to distribute their films properly. Now, since we took over, everything I've been doing to ensure that the films are properly distributed in a simple way. What the board does is that it ensures that the films are classified, and then we also engage with the producers and for the directors through engagement in education so that they know what they are supposed to put in their films. Since the board is no longer censoring, it is only classifying. So we determine how their film will be distributed. If, for instance, you bring things short, the way the board works now is that you determine where your film will be distributed. You determine who sees their film. Since our own is just to classify, we are no longer censoring. So whatever you bring, that's why we tell you, from whatever you bring to determine who sees their film. We are not telling you remove this or remove this. So the director himself determines how far his film gets to. You determine how far your film gets to. There's nothing else the board is doing again to say remove this or remove this. It is whatever you put in your film determines the classification we give to your film.
Thank you. So it's up to us if we want 15 rating or we want 18. If you want your film to be seen by many people, you know what to do. If you want to limit it, then you can put Orishirishi signs. Okay, the first round of questions was about foundation and infrastructure. We're going to the second round, which is scale, protection, and evolving ecosystem. So we'll start with Omotayo. Omotayo, in this era of global streaming platforms and international distribution, how should local independent directors structure their agreements to ensure long-term residual sustainability rather than accepting flat fee buyouts?
So I think Mr. Uche has said a little bit about that initially. And if we are being honest, right, the way filmmaking is structured in Nigeria hardly allows for a director to negotiate for a residual fee. Because when you look at the level of involvement, when you look at what producers need to go through to raise funds, when you look at what they need to do to get distribution deals, I mean, I've worked on several projects that have gone for international distribution, that have been on Netflix, on Amazon, and I honestly understand the level of work that producers put in to, number one, make a good film, to number two, get a good distribution deal that then transcends to an international deal. So to be honest, at this point, especially when you're trying to do it in an individual capacity, it becomes really hard. But there are ways that you can go about it, especially when you have a strong bargaining power. Like if you are an A-list director, these are conversations that you need to start having. And it's really painful when I'm trying to engage a director and they don't even read their contract. They just send the contract to them, the next day they sign, they send back. They hardly negotiate anything, simply because they feel, oh, since I don't own the IP, I can't earn residual fee. And that's the mistake that most people make. They mix up intellectual property ownership to profit sharing rights. And there are two distinct things. It's possible for you not to own intellectual property in a film, but you can still earn residual fees. You can still share from the profits. And sometimes when directors even get this deal, they don't define their profit sharing right properly. So if you look at deals like what Sinner got, and what Ryan Coogler got for Sinners, and also what Christopher Nolan got for Odyssey, you will know that you hear something like they earn from each dollar. These are terms that they use. So when they tell you that, oh, you share profits, what does that mean? If you look at the contract critically, when you share profit, are you sharing profit from the gross? Are you sharing profit from the net? What is the waterfall for earning on the project before it gets to you? Are you getting profit instantly from each naira that the film makes, or they need to deduct the production cost? Do they need to deduct back-end fee? Do they need to deduct everything first before it even gets to you? And at the end of the day, nothing might get to you. Not because they are lying, but that's just the actual fact, right? So the first thing you need to put in mind is, what is my bargaining strength? Because as an individual alone, you are at a disadvantage. But like Mr. Uche said, if it is something that the guild can come together and be like, oh, for each director, this is the basic agreement that you should sign. And this is what is obtainable in US under the DGA rules, right? They have a basic agreement. Then when your film goes to Netflix, Prime, they have a royalty percentage that comes back to the guild that they share to all the directors under that association at the end of the year. So, but here, if you are trying to do it as an individual, you hear things like, so if you don't take the deal, another person will take it. It's as simple as that. So you then need to consider that, okay, what are the other ways that I can compensate for myself so I don't lose this deal, right? So these are conversations, especially for A-list directors. And it's so painful that they don't even think about it. They just want their flat fee and they move on. But they forget that this flat fee would finish. But if you have a right to share profit, even you're unborn from this profit, because there are a lot of films now that they are remaking, there are a lot of films that they are making sequels, and you won't be surprised that if a director has a profit sharing right, there's no way you want to make a sequel or a remake without signing an agreement that will say that, okay, all the people that owns or share profit on this initial film would also get paid when we get the license to remake. And that's how it works. Start thinking outside flat fee. Sometimes it might entail you even parting away with some of your part fee. You can say, okay, instead of earning 10 million, let me earn 5 million instead. Or let me share, give me 2%, give me 5%. That way, you are building your IP. And if you want long-term wealth, the best way to go is to share profits, own IP, and be able to negotiate deals that transcend beyond you and the present work.
Thank you so much, Mutayo. You've touched on something that is dear to my heart. For the A-listers in our industry, we need to build our guilds. The strength of the collective overshadows the strength of every individual person. So those of us that are really big in your different fields, whether producers, whether directors, please cooperate with your guild leaderships. Let's build structures that would outlast all of us. Now, Olutobi, let's talk about dispute resolution. Independent filmmakers rarely have internal legal departments to back them up if an executive producer or financier breaches a contract. When an independent director finds themselves in a payment or creative dispute with a heavily funded investor, what practical, cost-effective, commercial legal strategies or dispute resolution mechanisms can they use?
Thank you very much for the question. First of all, the most practical dispute resolution mechanism that you could use to resolve your disputes happens before the agreement is actually signed. Happens before the agreement is actually signed. If we're talking about post-execution and performance, it no longer becomes cost-effective. Whether it is litigation, there are dispute resolution mechanisms provided for under the law. There's litigation. Litigation is the most common one. We go to court and we go argue and get judgment one way or another. Another one is arbitration. Arbitration involves a panel. You would tell them whatever your grievances are and they will issue what we call an arbitral award one way or another. The arbitral award is actually quite similar to a judgment in the way it works. And then there's mediation. Mediation is we sit down, we discuss. Maybe the head of the DGN is going to be our mediator to try and help us find a middle ground. And so I say this to say, your lawyer shouldn't just be the person you go and meet after you have gone to trial. You should always carry your lawyer along. You want to direct a film. You've gotten this deal from this producer to direct a film. Tell your lawyer right from the onset, so that from the director's agreement, your lawyer can look at the fine print and avoid things that could potentially cause you liability. By the time you look at the cost of engaging a lawyer to help you avoid legal liability and the cost of correcting legal liability consequently, the cost of engaging a lawyer pre-execution is always far cheaper. Always far cheaper. But you say you don't want a lawyer, and then when you now run into, you now come to the lawyer's office and I'll give you my bill and you start paying me. Because I have looked at, especially when it comes to Nigeria, there are fast ways, there are slow ways, but cost-effective ways, post-execution, honestly, I, in my opinion, in my experience, there isn't. But of course, it varies from individual to individual. But I am looking at the average director who works on his own. There is no cost-effective dispute resolution mechanism. It has to happen pre the signing of the agreement. Let us know where we are. Let us know where we stand. Let us know what your rights are, what your liabilities are. However, in the situation where we're looking at post-execution, I would recommend, in every standard agreement, there's always a dispute resolution clause. And in the dispute resolution clause, it states what law is going to govern that dispute and what will be the dispute resolution mechanism to be employed. It could be litigation. In most cases, it is arbitration. Arbitration clause is the most common clause. Arbitration is quite fast. However, especially in Nigeria, it is not cheap. And the cheapest one you can get is at the Lagos State Multi-Door Courthouse. And they bill you depending on the amount that is involved. There's a percentage that they collect depending on the amount that is involved. The flat fee that they will collect, flat, is 1 million naira. Even if the amount that you are seeking is just 500,000 naira, you are collecting 1 million naira from you. Otherwise, take your business elsewhere. If you go to the Regional Center of International Arbitration, forget about it. It's hundreds of millions of naira that you collect. So they will even tell you that they can't even take your dispute to begin with. And so, I said it before, say it again. The best, most cost-effective dispute resolution mechanism for you happens before you put pen to paper. Engage your lawyer from the start of the transaction, from when you are negotiating, from when we already have a client who has already come to us. He intends on getting into an international distribution deal, and he has involved us from the very start. And from the distribution contract that they gave to him, we've already flagged about 10 things. One of which is governing law, because the distribution company is in Germany, and then they put their dispute resolution clause that the governing law should be genuine. So I'm going to fly to Germany. On whose dime? So that is one of the things. So imagine if he didn't actually involve us from the start, and then he comes post-execution to come and say, these people are not giving me the money that they said they were going to give me under the contract. The first thing that the lawyer is going to look at is resolution mechanism, because that is codified. You have to follow that first. Even if you want to go to court in Nigeria, you have to be satisfied with whatever it is that resolution mechanism in the contract says. So this resolution mechanism says, we are going to Germany because Germany is the governing law. Who is going to pay for the lawyer's flight? Who is paying for your own flight? How exactly is it going to be done? We advocate for our clients whenever they are entering into agreement, this resolution. You can choose arbitration, but let it be at the Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse. because that's the efficient that is the cheapest. And let the government run in Nigeria for your own good.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, this question is about macro infrastructure. It's for both Uche and Eddie. Looking at a marketplace that requires both digital transformation and physical infrastructure, like the Nollywood City projects, how do these macro industry advancements translate into an everyday financial safety net for the working director?
I think in most cases, we get above or too much ahead of ourselves when we discuss the role play within the creative industries. For the director, unfortunately, because you always see a Shego Arize film, a Chasnovia film, we all want to sit in that director's chair, but without possibly understanding, like the lawyer said, the encumbrances and the legal framework that comes with that. There are a lot of infrastructural framework or infrastructural development or desires that sit totally outside of the director's job description. So if I want to be honest with you, I would say that that question should probably sit better with the executive producers and the producers rather than with the director. But again, this is Nollywood. Everybody gets involved in everything. My strong opinion is the director has actually no bearing or role play when it comes to infrastructural development, which has to bearing on financing, long-term planning, and maybe business strategies. The director is just somebody who is called as a finisher. He might not even be involved with the idea, he might not be involved with the development. A producer is working with a studio or an executive producer, and you have handpicked somebody, in which case he's just there to take the money, hire maybe his crew. In some cases, the director doesn't have a right in choosing who the cinematographer is, or who the DOP is, or who the production designer is. So until a director is at the level where you are almost simultaneously a financier or simultaneously an investor, the question you have just asked totally excludes the typical role of a director. So I don't want to try to manufacture answers. I would say that sits more with producers, executive producers, and at the very best, maybe the investment consortium who are looking to leverage the future of the business and they're going into infrastructure development. That's my take.
What I'm asking here actually is, maybe Uche knows better what I'm talking about, the Nollywood City project.
Okay. So I get his point. Currently, Directors Guild of America, their headquarters sits on a tower where you have about 6 screens. They have about 6 screens. Cinema, when I mean 6 screens, I'm talking about cinema projection. Of course, administrative offices and all of that. So the thing is, yes, to a great extent from what he said, if you want to look at the director at the typical job description of who a director is, of course, 100% what he's saying is what it is. However, like you rightly pointed out, it's evolving. So associations, organizations are also looking at how can we contribute in also building up infrastructure. So here we are talking to some, I think I've held 3 meetings with Afrexim Bank. In fact, this morning I got a response to a conversation we've been having for quite some period of time that spans across about 5 years. And it has to do with Directors Guild of Nigeria, things we want to do, including trying to bring together
like he rightly pointed out, financiers and an investment consortium, to build a film city where the production process. Now, if you listen to this, it will sound like that's the job of an executive producer, like he said. That's true. However, as the world evolves, the guild itself needs to be structured, needs to be financially independent, right? To also be able to have strength to negotiate. A hungry man barely negotiates properly. And that's part of the problem we have been trying to point out. Because if a director is hungry, right, you give him peanuts, he takes it. But if a director is not looking, knows that if he doesn't take this peanut, he's not going to go hungry tomorrow, then he's in a better place to negotiate better. And so he can negotiate his fees better, he can negotiate royalties better, because it doesn't necessarily have to depend on that immediate finance for him to eat. So what, at the guild level or at the organization level, what we're trying to do is also to put structures in place where we can also now start being able to, as a group, being able to ensure that the welfare of the organization or members of the organization are properly taken care of. And that will involve us getting involved in businesses. That will involve us getting involved with things that can make our work easier. That may even involve us getting involved with producing at some point. Yes, because when I'm agreeing with you as a law. Definitely, I started by agreeing with you before I now said beyond that, world is evolving. I don't think there's any director sitting down here who has not produced. I don't think so. Yes, I don't think so. Okay.
I don't mean to go into an argument.
Okay.
I'm very practical, and I come from the position of somebody who has been an executive producer and also an advisor to investment, one or two groups, like an investment consortium, right? And there have been times where we had to advise for some projects to be walked away from. It's good to look at Hollywood. I've also done work by full disclosure, very detailed work for one of the 3 global DSPs. I won't mention the particular one. We are talking of Amazon, Hulu, Netflix, one of them. And I have very good understanding of what I'm talking about. So if you want to follow the examples of what is happening globally, it's good to have. You want to get a lawyer, your mind goes to Khalifa Wemi or to all the big stars, and you can't even pay to knock on the door. Whereas there's a lawyer next door to you who is begging you to say, I can help you, let's go together and all this. It's good to look at the top, but you also have to be realistic. And I say this from a very good place. How many directors in DGN have a life insurance policy? This is not putting anybody on the spot. I'm just saying it's good to look at global trends, global evolution, but we must look at what are our particular and peculiar points. I've been talking to Zion, talking about some very hyper-local things that nobody is looking at, but which I think holds promise for growing. Every time there's a new leadership of DGN or AMP or whatever, it's almost like everybody goes back to square one to start growing their house again. Until you get to where this is institutionalized, you solve all your teaching problems before you begin to say, oh, the American Guild of Directors, DGN, have 80 years history behind them, and they can begin to dream beyond personal ambition. Every territory must look at what do we need to grow, what ideas do we need to incubate, and how do we build a foundation. I asked the question, DGN members, how many directors have life insurance policy? There are ways you build an ecosystem. If an electrician dies on set that is electrocuted, I'm an advocate of health and safety in productions. I've seen sets, I've seen people on location where everything screams danger. I walk into this room, I see cables running all over, anybody can get electrocuted. I start up there first. Again, like I'm saying, we are speaking sincerely. It's probably somebody's responsibility who hasn't done it well. And we tend to overlook the low-hanging fruits, and we're focusing on too many big things. If during production, somebody supplies a generator, there's a short circuit, you are filming in somebody's house, the house burns down. Did anybody take out insurance on that production? Not for the human being now, for the assets. Area boys run into your set and they take the cameras and they steal the equipment. Was it insured? So there are things that we can focus on that can make the life of the individual director practicing his craft worth it or more meaningful, and then individually scaling up to the guild as a unit to make laws, regulations, and it's like a cooperative, like a labor union, protecting that ecosystem to grow before we begin to look at other big objectives. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. First, like I said, I totally agree with your first statement. However, I was giving context because when you said something is completely off the director's purview, I agree as an individual. But I was saying as an organization, it is not. Because an organization has short-term goals, mid-term goal, and long-term goal. And when she's talking about Nollywood, it's not talking about what is happening immediately, but you must have to start the planning when you're also doing your short-term goals. These, as an organization and as the current administration of that organization, life insurance is even least of our worries right now because it's the cheapest on the. What is the problem we're facing, which we are currently negotiating, is actually a comprehensive health insurance. The life insurance, we have had an agreement with that for every member. What we haven't really signed is the health insurance part, the comprehensive health insurance part. So just to respond to that. However, my point is, yes, I agree with you. The current administration of the guild is also doing so much in implementing structures and systems. And that is why we are here today, trying to do Directors Week, to also look at what are the immediate issues of the directors and how they can be solved, right? So just so that there's nothing wrong in being ambitious, actually, most times, right? But you must have to also put it in systems and structure. You need to structure it in such a way that there's a short term, the low-hanging fruits that you are getting, while you're also looking at the medium term. But you must also be foresight to have a long-term vision that, okay, in the next 20 years, 30 years, this is what is going to end up doing. So that as you lay the foundation, somebody else coming behind you can see a foundation upon which you can build. Or if not, like you rightly said, we'll go back. Each time there's a new administration, we'll go back because there's no long-term goal. There's no planning. There's nothing that was put in place like foundation and that other people can kill. Then to just round off to the answer to your question. So what we are trying to do is all inclusive. The key goal is how do we empower a director to say no to a project? And it's all part of the mix of what we're trying to do. A director should be able to say no and walk away from a project. The reason why most of my members currently may not be able to have the capacity to say that no is simply because some of them are still struggling to have enough to eat their daily bread, so to say. So they look at, if I say no to this one, say no to this one, when am I going to start eating, right? So what we're now doing is, whereas we're trying to do the basics, we need to put something in place that in the next few years, a director can be benefiting from what we have put in place that can sustain him. Then once you have sustenance, then you can negotiate better.
And that is all about the structure that she referenced to, and I was trying to respond to it. It's not like a direct response, just general response.
Okay. So I'm just I like being very practical and set goals that are achievable and pragmatic, so to say. So I'm not against long I'm not against long-term vision and planning. But I also do understand that if I'm going to build a 10-story
Okay, if I'm going to build a 10-story building, the important thing for me is not just focusing on the 10th floor, but on the foundation on which those 10 floors will stand. So it doesn't give way by the time we get up there. You also said something that it is very doubtful that there are maybe 90% of directors have also produced. Do you see a conflict of interest there? There's somebody in this room, very influential, that will belong to the same WhatsApp platform. And this kind of conversation came up. And it turns out that most directors who are privileged
also produce would not even sign the barest minimum decent level agreement that can make life sustainable for a budding director. Because he's seen himself as an investor, not somebody trying to do charity to make a director survive. I repeat, most directors who have also had the privilege of producing, in hiring a director that you want to live, that you are desirous of seeing, live above various minimum standard, so that it does not take just any job. Those producers who are directors are the first corporates that will not make that.
Well, that's for them. For me,
so I don't know if it's important.
Power. For me personally, the goal personally is to hand over the power to a creative to make a decision whether he wants to be able to do a job or not.
So do you think producers and directors in the same sentence, in the way you want to achieve this objective, should coexist? Because the big directors have the louder voice in DGN, and they happen to also be producers.
Guys,
these are uncomfortable truths, but
it is uncomfortable, and both of you are making a lot of sense. This is something that you guys need to unpack, because it is true. There is a conflict of interest, and that conflict of interest will hold
the young people.
Yeah, it's holding down the budding creatives. So, but we have to move on because our time is limited on this panel. So back to our regulator. With the Film and Video Censors Board's evolving context standards regarding how certain cultural vices are depicted, how can directors balance their artistic and utter freedom with responsible storytelling that protects our cultural landscape?
Hello. It all boils down to education and the enlightenment we're saying. If the director is sound, through workshops like Masterclass or whatever, they should know what should be going to the film and what should not go into the film. If the director is sound, you should consider that he knows that the board is no longer, the board is classifying now. We will know what should put in the film and what should not put in the film. It all boils down to him. If he's sound and knows what he should do, he should know what to put in the film and not to put in the film.
because it is what you put that will determine where the board will classify it, and how they classify it determines who sees it. So it all boils down to education. That's why I'm encouraging what the directors are doing through classes like Masterclass and whatever to bring up their colleagues so that they know what to do when they are producing, when they're directing the work they are doing. So it all depends on the director. If you are sound, what do you do? What should you put in the film? What should you not put in the film? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I agree that the board is now classifying, not censoring. But do we have any protections in place or guidance? Because our culture is fast being depleted. So what can we do to protect our culture? The film industry globally is what sets the tone for how a country is perceived. We all believe America is one of the strongest nations because of how Hollywood presents America. So is the board attempting to do anything?
Now, we did the regulation. So there are things we do now. We not allow, that is tobacco. And rituals. We are doing controls on them. And the filmmakers are keyed into that. They are keyed into that because it's all boils down to what I'm telling you. If you put all those things in your film, it will affect its classification. So the regulation is going to tell you, are you putting tobacco? Are you putting rituals in your film? It will affect how it will be classified. So that's the way the board is intervening mildly on that. But it's no longer putting in control, it is persuasion and cohesion with it. We are working on that. Thank you very much.
Wants to restructure their business and career to ensure they are still thriving 10 years from now, what is the immediate step they should take?
Self-evaluation and self-truth and get good business advice. Self-evaluation, honesty in your self-evaluation and good business advice. And that business advice involves lawyers.
We need skill. You have to be a director of skill yourself. Of skill. It's part of it.
Okay, so I would say just look at your career as not just a one-off thing. Look at it as something that you can build over time and ensure that you put structures in place for you to be able to negotiate a better deal. And this might include you having a manager that understands the industry and also having a lawyer that understands the film industry. And like you rightly said before, the best time for you to hire a lawyer is before it's before you sign the deal, not after you sign the deal. And most times, you might not necessarily put a lawyer on a retainer. It might be on a transaction basis. Anytime you get a contract, just have a lawyer on the standby that you can always seek legal advice from and have the lawyer review and look at your contract. Thank you.
From my own perspective, I'm just going to piggyback on what the other panelists have said. I think you said it. You have a vision, you know your capacity, you understand what you are trying to achieve and also where you are. And you are a director who is trying to restructure his business for future and continuous benefits. Now that you are at the starting point of having that idea, involve your lawyer. Have a lawyer who you can always consult to help you navigate the legalities of the industry. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If there's one definite takeaway from this media conversation for me, it is the director's creative genius can only shine as bright as the structural architecture supporting it. Art without structure is exploitation waiting to happen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Can we take one question? Okay. Okay, we have our two questions.
My question is specifically
and the response should also be really brief. Thank you.
and my name is Ugezu Jerugezu. If the board have now restricted themselves to strictly classifying, how do we salvage the damage that is already done on our culture? Because it is still ongoing. If the census board cannot look at what somebody has done and know that this is a caricature of what the culture should be, and because you do not want to censor, you will just classify it and push you go ahead and watch it. Where is the rule of that census board? Thank you.
Please, we must clarify the historical accuracy. What if you are putting something that is fake, that is false, we cannot that will not go. And the director himself will not allow even something that is not verified to go ahead.
Just so that I come in here, I know that I've spoken with Dr. Shaibu multiple times about this issue. And what Dr. Shaibu always says that self-censorship is the ultimate. That he didn't, when he came on board, there was always this idea of you take a film to census board, they will tell you cut here, cut here, cut here. At the end of the day, your
own creative expression now becomes compromised. It's not compromised. So the doctor said that for now, they are engaging a lot more
on education, so that filmmakers themselves will now do more of self-censorship. So before you even do anything, you ask yourself, is this right? And that is why they're investing a lot more. So I think that is the vision of the current leadership of the board. And I think as a creative, that gives us more creative freedom to do what we have to do. Because I remember that it used to be hell. Sometimes you finish making a film, but the time they cut off. In fact, it got to a point that filmmakers started doing what they call the board version and the market version.
Thank you.
My name is Patience Obrey-Mobile. I'm a filmmaker too. And so many other things goes, and at the end of the day, the story goes like that. It's not short. When can we actually say that? For me, the job has started. I know for me how say the job has started, but when can we put it into law? When does the law? What is obtainable? What is the global practice that this job has started for you as a director?
So I would say it depends. Like, it's not a one size fits all kind of decision, in the sense that it depends on the involvement of the director, right? And also the level of rights that the director has. So, like one of the panelists said that the typical situation that we have in Nigeria is Directors are hired. That's just it. And the producer decides when they come in, they decide what they do, they decide what they earn. So it's up to you to either most times take it or leave it in most cases. But for you as a director, that's why your contract is very, very important. And for me, before we even engage a director, the first thing I ensure my client would do is to sign a non-disclosure agreement. So from your non-disclosure agreement, you know that, okay, we want to discuss this idea with you and we want to send your director's engagement agreement. So based on that, the director's contract would specify the duration of the contract. When are you supposed to start work? What exactly are you supposed to do, your scope of services? So most times you need to go back to your contract to determine when your services actually starts. So most times the first thing you need to do is to clarify your contract. Once you have your contract, you'll be able to determine when your work actually starts. Because when you start work without a contract, how do you prove that you've done anything? But when you start with a contract, then your contract will guide you stage by stage from table read to crew engagement, to shoot, to editing, to final cut. You know, it just clarifies exactly how you work throughout the process of your engagement.
Thank you so much. I think that answers the question.
Yes, that answers the question.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Please, a round of applause for the panelists. Thank you. You've been such an amazing audience. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. We're going to move swiftly into the next.
I'm not taking pictures.
Move swiftly into the next panel session. So far, please, has this been very, informative, educative for you? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So the next session is one that I am also very, very interested in. We're going to be discussing what it is to be directing beyond film, because we'll be talking about film. And a lot of directors here are not just film directors, they are also other things. So we're moving into the next one where we're talking about directing beyond film. We're going to be talking about, AI, television, streaming, and digital, and what have you. And with us on the panel, we're starting with the first, who is, a lot of you may know, very heavyweight. She has, done a lot of amazing things to a lot of directors and producers in the industry. Please welcome, with a round of applause, the executive head of content and channels of Mnet Africa, Madam Atinuke Babatunde. Men are clapped on our heavyweights. Thank you. And next on the panel is the man that have, he's been doing a lot. We're trying to push. I talk about AI, and he's the founder of Nigerian AI Film Festival and director of content also for Money Point. Please welcome Mr. Obina to the panel. Please, a round of applause, please. And we're also going to be welcoming one of our own, who is also going to be talking about, the space of YouTube and a lot of things that has been happening there. So you also get to learn from that. Please, a round of applause for the one and only Frederick Leonard. And one of my Oga at the top in the industry that is doing a lot silently. He's a silent, very silent worker in this industry. But he has done so much, and he has amassed a lot of body of work and amount of numbers of screen time on TV. Please welcome Femi Ogunsongo, the executive producer and showrunner, House of Gabriel Studios. Mr. Femi, I think he's outside. I have to get him. Mr. Obina, I've called you. So I'll get Mr. Femi, he's outside. Moderating this panel of these amazing people is the one and only legendary Mr. Charles Novia. Please, a round of applause, please.
Okay. Where did the moderator, all the other moderators are listed here or here? Might go sit down. Okay, so I'm not a very formal person like that, so I will just get on with this. So I see that while I'm waiting for Femi to come in, we'll start. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll first have a small, a little bit. DGN. I thought this place would have been a little bit more illuminated for the directors fully in. So in the showcase like this, I'm wondering, I'll be sitting down with that cameraman there, I'm looking at the shots there, wondering what you are seeing is like being in a dark studio. So next time, we have producers and directors amongst us who can help in, thank you, welcome Femi, in giving the right kind of logistics, lights and logistics support for something like this. But I must also congratulate DGN for having this too as well. So it's two ways. You use one hand take partner, one hand take also partner. So welcome to give you a tone of how this session is going to be a little bit. We're going to be very frank with our talk. Directed beyond film. In the present structure of things in the industry, there's a saying, the pidgin English saying, water side saying, says rabbits will get only one hole when the entire next will die. That means many directors within this industry right now sometimes may not be working. The ecosystem that was once vibrant, which used to create the jobs for them, it has actually, atrophied. So I think in an earlier panel, the one on the panel before the last one, somebody was mentioning that directors have to think out of the box. You don't sit down and start waiting for the producers to come out. What are you doing in an era where AI is there, skit making is there, and YouTube is there? So I would want to sort of start say ladies first. So, Madam Atibuke, I would like to start with you. I'll ask you the question because while you may not be the director as a film director, but you are involved in the process where your organization employs a lot of directors through the commissions and all that. How do you go about, or how do you supervise that structure? Because there are so many productions, original productions, which African Magic does and every year, and I'm sure it's quite peculiar to, sort of choose the right kind of directors. Do you have a subsystem where the directors are within, or do you farm for directors? Okay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Just like you rightly said, we do a lot of work.
Okay, you need to give her this one.
We do a lot of productions at Eminent African Magic, and like he has rightly said, I'm not a director, but we work with a lot of. And for us, instead of going and farming for individual directors to work on the different projects, we usually go through the route of getting executive producers. And when we get these executive producers that have done things in the past, we know their track records, we know the body of what they've done, the onus is now on the executive producers to get whoever it is they want to work with in terms of producers, directors, and all. So for us, it's easier to manage in terms of we're not the ones directly looking for those directors. We're looking for somebody that is responsible for the whole production as a whole. And then this person now gets the responsibility of recruiting his or her cast and crew with, of course, our own input and review. So that's how we do it. We don't go farming for directors separately. Get executive producers that get this producers and directors to work with them.
Thank you. We'll be sharing this microphone until the logistics people. Which one? Yeah, I don't think it was not loud. So and because of the camera, the technical crew, they need to get the right kind of sound for on the library. Thank you, Madam. Okay. I'll go to Obina. Obina, you are known. Known you when you were doing before you moved to Money Point was Red TV, the director of content for Money Point. In fact, actually, when he moved to Money Point, the whole outlook of Money Point changed because all those commercials that they see in Money Point is the guy behind them in terms of using them. The latest one is Funke Akindele, I think, and all that I've been watching. I need to ask because I know you're also very passionate about AI. With AI and its relevance right now, I see a lot of people, especially outside the country, especially in Hollywood, they are using AI for their shots, for their, for productions. This is an academic question. Could you really say when a production company uses AI as a prompt, as a production, obviously a production, who really is the director? Is it the AI that's the director, or is it the prompt? We need to. I've wondered about that, so probably you may give me a little bit of difference.
All right, hi everyone. Good afternoon. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. Okay, so the question is, if somebody, director or a production company uses AI and they're trying to do something, whatever the project may be, and then they work with artificial intelligence, who's the director. So I think I'll answer it like this. So I'm going to provide some sort of what I've always knowing AI isn't suddenly going to make you a better director or writer. What happens is that you must understand the basic writing, of directing, of, essentially. So a story for film has a beginning, a script will have 3 acts, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Now, you should take that as the background. You should have that information going into, and when I'm talking about AI, when I'm talking about all this funny stuff you see online, I'm talking about carrying cinematic language into into the realm of AI. So essentially, it's just like any other AI model. What you put in is what you get out. So now whatever you see as a great generation or something that is cohesive has to come from whoever is prompting. Now the difference is that based on the model you're using, because these days there are different models, and you can see from the output, in terms of the quality of the model. So and adherence, consistency, and things like that. Now, it is important that the person who is doing the prompt is very clear and very concise and has some level of technical skill in terms of telling the machine what to do. So when it does happen, what I would say is, at the end of the day, it's the AI cannot direct itself. So essentially, those set of commands need to come from somebody who is trained, who understands the basics of storytelling. So as it were, whoever is prompting is still the director, because at the end of the day, the machine is only responding to your inputs. Whether you're doing image to the video or you're doing text to video, whatever happens, what the important thing is that whoever is prompting understands the basics of storytelling and they're able to tell a cohesive story, that kind of thing. So that's how I answer it. Whoever is responsible for putting the prompt is still directing. Because now, you can, the models have advanced in such a way that you can put even down to the specification of your lens choices. Like, I'm sure those of us who have done a little bit of AI exploration, you must have seen things like Higgsfield, and the runway and Kling and all that. Higgsfield has something called Cinema Studio. In Cinema Studio, you can choose your camera, Panavision, IMAX, and things like that. You can choose 50-meter length, 1.5 aperture, all of that stuff, down to, that is how granular you can become in when you are prompting the thing. So what's important is, again, that's why I set that context. If you do not understand the basics of storytelling, the craft of storytelling, the craft of filmmaking, AI is not suddenly going to make you a better person. In fact, it will reveal your weaknesses and your ignorance. You get so, but in the hands of a skilled storyteller, it excels. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, guys. You can clap if you want to clap. That's quite impressive. I mean, what you just outlined is a bit different from the music part of it. You know, the music we have a lot of AI slop music all over the place, thousands coming out every day. So you will not ask who produced this one. So nobody can claim when an AI is prompted into music. I mean, AI prompt is given to the music software to say this is produced by someone. For directing, I think you've answered something. So for a lot of directors using AI, and I asked this, there's a reason I asked this question, because a few weeks ago, about 2 months ago, somebody from the US, a Nigerian living in the US, actually sent me a message and said, "Oh, Charles, I want to shoot something here in the US. So when next you're in the US, can you come and direct?" And I said, "Okay, send me the script." So he sent me the script. The script sent me, the series. So he sent me a little bit of this, the first 2 or 3 episodes, and I read it. As I said, eventually I had to recommend somebody to work with him on that. I said that was it. But when I read it, it was so well structured. So I had to ask, who wrote this thing? He said, "Oh, it's me and AI." I said, "No, this is not really." So, it's like I and AI wrote it. So I guess that's something that we'll have to look at. So when you have an idea and you create an idea and you put it on an AI, and AI writes it for you, are you going to be taking the credits with AI as the originator of the idea? So those are little things that will be cropping up in this in the age of AI, an era of AI where we are. But I'll get to Frederick Ludet. How are you? How are you doing? I think you're this is a new look actually. Or I don't know.
I'm actually on set filming as an actor.
Oh, okay, great, welcome. Okay, I need to ask you, because you are, I mean, more or less, been more on YouTube productions as an actor, as a director. If I'm wrong, just correct me. But
correct.
Yes. How do you work that out? Would you say there's a school of thought which believes that YouTube is a small screen kind of industry? It's probably more or less like a TV industry because of the way we have situated our ideas to conform to the YouTube, conditions of uploading and all that. And so that means a lot of people, their creativity is stunted within the confines of the YouTube test. So would you say that as you have, I know you've directed a few productions on YouTube too as well. Would you say that as a director who directed for this, I'm using the term small screen, not derogatory in any way, but to say to get the difference. Well, directed for this small screen, would you say you would be able to go out of that form if you were to go into directing for the big screen? Is there something that you think you would have? Because a lot of people will say somebody is doing small budget films or doing small YouTube films. I cannot use them to direct my films for the cinema. How would you react to that kind of hypothesis?
You want to set me up for dry?
Exactly.
Okay, so I'll start with saying that film is film. I don't think one is big screen. I don't think any small screen, as much as we have different medium. Okay, so you want a cinema experience, you put the film in the theater, people get to enjoy it. But I can also tell you that a trained filmmaker is a trained filmmaker, whether on big screen or small screen. So I have colleagues who have made very beautiful movies for theater, and right now they're making YouTube films. So you can't now say that they used to be big, time filmmakers and now they are small time filmmakers. I have people who have made movies, started with YouTube, And without trying to diminish anyone's work, some of the films that I have produced and directed, some of the films that Bimbo Ademoye have produced, some of the films that Biodo Stevens put on YouTube are way better than some of the films in cinema. You could drag me for this one, it's okay. I say. And that is not to diminish anyone's talent. It's just that a few of us understand that distribution in Nigeria has always moved from one point to the next. I came in about 24 years ago when it was on VHS, and I saw the VCDs, and then Africa Magic came in, rock, and then the cinemas, now it's YouTube. We don't know what's coming next. So for those of us who do the extra to put quality films on our channel, we're just prepping and getting ready for what's coming next. And like I said, I went for screening before I became a DGN member. So if you're not a trained filmmaker, you're not a trained filmmaker. If you don't know the job, you don't know the job. But if you know the job, to answer your question, you can direct for any medium, be it small or big. Because at the end of the day, what you are able to do with the little that you have been given tells a lot about what you can do if you're given this big. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. Thank you. I've known you, I knew you, I knew you way back as a director, some fantastic productions you did way back, and then you are now doing fantastic work with Africa Magic as an executive producer.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm wondering, and this is, I could have asked you quietly, but let me just ask you here. I'm wondering, with the whole gamut now of being for African Magic, you've produced a fantastic series in the last couple of years, or 2 or 3 years and all, and do you still think that because I knew you when you started, your fire directing was fantastic. Do you still think you've got that fire? Do you think something has improved in your whole creative process, or has something, would you prefer to remain as an executive producer now and training and shaping new directors? What is, I want to start with that question first.
It's a good question. I think I'm still the same person. Same guy. I haven't changed. And I'll explain it with context. Some of the films from the past that you know me with, right? I was making them while directing for African Magic, while I was in Nollywood, right? That was how I was, because I know from the previous panels, they asked questions about how directors coping now. That was how I was coping. I was directing, before I became an EP, I directed over 500 episodes of Primetime TV for MultiChoice, right? So you direct, and I was at the same time going to make those shows. And I knew I wanted to be an EP for MultiChoice in the future, so I knew the work had to be good. So you literally step out of yourself when you are going to shoot one film in 2 or 3 years, right? You prepare for that film you're going to shoot in 2 or 3 years. When you're on the set of Jimmy G or Jochi for James or all those shows. When you're on those sets, you understand also, as I got to understand more when I became an EP showrunner, that it's directing for TV on those large scale shows. It's a collaborative thing, right? You know that this sequence of scenes, so one person enters the room, they quarrel, they go outside, they fight, right? And then somebody tells somebody to go and settle it. Those 3 places are 3 different locations, right? The person that settles it in the 3rd scene may not be scheduled to come to set that day,
and the next time it's coming to set, it's not you who is going to direct it. It is somebody else. So it's a collaborative effort, and you collaborate through the showrun. Okay, so in those situations, TV, so when you're coming to direct for TV, you have to be ready to collaborate. When you're an executive producer for TV, you have to understand that everybody is somewhat thinking through you. That is if you are the showrunner and executive producer at the same time, which is the only way I have done it so far. So the very short answer to your question is I'm the same person. I actually have films. No, I have at least one film I have made that hasn't been released since I became an executive producer, and I think it's better than anything I've ever done. And I have one film that I made just before I became an EP for MultiChoice. And it's also not out yet. I'm very wary about cinemas now. They don't show me Pepe. So I'm waiting for when it makes sense to release those two films. So basically, I'm using examples of my real life experience to answer your question. Now, if I will help Madam Atinuke finish her own question. When they commission us and we have to look for directors, I mentioned it slightly about a minute ago. I am not looking for directors that understand collaboration. I get it, it's a director's guild. We have our own mind. You see a scene, you see how you want to shoot it, right? I'm looking for people that either through history, either through somebody saying, he's that kind of person, or either just however enthusiastic they are when we talk. I'm looking for people who understand this is collaboration. And collaboration also means that I, as the showrunner and EP, I may have exactly how I want to shoot this scene of the chief priest finally anointing this person and there are 10 guards surrounding him, right? But I also know from experience, and I've experienced situations where people bring way better ideas than I'm thinking about. And I've seen when people bring absolute rubbish, and I know they haven't thought about it, or maybe they haven't even read the script. So it's looking for people that, when for TV, we're looking for directors that understand it is collaboration, and the collaboration is both ways, right? They understand that the showrunner is not an egotistic child that just, my way or the highway, shoots as I thought. No, it's not like that. We have to collaborate. We don't want anybody watching and going, there's no way this direct episode 2, nobody direct 3. We don't want it to show. Can we see it? Yes, I can almost tell, is it that Pato or Blackie that shot that scene? I can almost tell. But you should not be able to tell that. Just helping out finish out.
Yeah, thank you. Let's hear this one. Yes. Right.
Just to add to what Femi has said, even though we recruit the executive producers, but most times, if you look at the history of people that have done EP for us, usually people that have been good directors. So you understand, that's how we work. So even though we don't hire the directors, we hire the EP, but if you look at the history of the EP, there are also people that have done good directing. So when you come to us and say, I want you guys to commission me, we always look at your history. Before we commission you, there must have been a history of work that you've done. For instance, Pat does a lot of great directing work for us. If tomorrow we decide to make an EP, it's because of the history that we have.
Can I ask a question in that regard? Okay. So is it because, I think it's a good, is it because your organization would trust that person because of the directing background of being able to be a manager of
yes, because before you give somebody the responsibility of being an EP, there must be something that you trust. You must have seen, you just don't wake up and say, because I like your face, give sing. You must have produced things that we've seen and that, like Feli said, for him, because I know that he hasn't changed director with that fire and all, because that's one of the things we saw before making him an EP on the project.
Fantastic. So for directors, new directors, who want to get commissioned or get to Madam Atinuke for stuff, your body of work would speak for you. I think maybe the process would be try and latch yourself onto somebody like prepare me first, so that you can work with have a little bit of your history or body of work before you come to that. But let me stick with you. Okay, so I don't want to leave. Well, I guess there's some curiosity. A lot of people here, a few other people here want to know more about, because you call the shots. Basically, no pun intended at multi-choice right now. And I just wanted to know talk a little bit. I know that there's a process from about 4 years ago, 3 years or 4 years ago. I think I put in a couple of pitches for the, you had this website. I said, put your stuff there. I even forgotten about it. I just started getting the emails last week that sorry, we are not using your idea. Sorry, we're not using that. I'm like, but something I said 4 years ago. I didn't take 4 years for this one to get back to me. I even forgot that I even said that. Yes, I have actually. but that's aside. I just wanted to know what the process is for a lot of The sharing pool might be a little bit narrowed now if you don't do something. But what is it? How lucrative it is? Because there are a lot of people here also want to go into that field, their own content. Is it still lucrative? Is it something that you still like you explained just now that money care? Please tell us.
The answer to this question long ago. Because I'll start with saying that a lot of people need education on YouTube. Because every time you say YouTube, they just think dollar. A lie. Is it lucrative? I would say it's relative. It depends on who you are, what you're doing, what you represent, what you're giving, timing, story, choice of actors. If what you're making goes with the taste bud of the YouTube audience. That one under lecture. There's that loves to also people think that we're doing quite well. Sometimes we lose a lot of money, if not 50-50. Because it's a lot going on. A lot of people think that the views now be the money. No, sir. You have a lot of views, your RPM can be low. You have not relatively low views, your RPM can be high. It's a different lecture too, why the RPM is low and why it's high. Some people will tell you it's the actors you use. No, some people will tell you, no, but I think it's where your audience are situated and where they're watching from. So if you have actors who have a fan base there, well, good for you. If you have a story with the right actors and it connects with certain territories, good for you. So if you have the right actors and the story don't connect, boom. So you have the views and you're not making money. So it's a lot. But because people just think of YouTube and they see you, you get money, and that challenges the truth. But the truth is YouTube is struggling, just like Nigeria is struggling. A lot of people are struggling on YouTube. And for those of us who want to make quality film, I tell you this, you make a film with 20 million, sometimes 30. Some of us are crazy like that, we go that far. And then you make 45 million. I don't think that's good business. Someone might argue and say, yeah, you made 100%
That's from YouTube.
Yeah.
No, you make a film for like 20 million on YouTube and you make 45 million.
No, you make a movie for 20 million on YouTube.
Okay.
And then you make 30 million. I don't think that's good business. In my opinion. Someone might argue and say, well, you don't lose your money. You make your capital. Yes, you make your capital, but if you see the time, the effort, and everything that goes into making quality content, you see. Now, I say that also because sometimes you can make a movie for 7 million and you make 30 million. But the question now is, how many times does that happen? So sometimes it happens for you twice in a year. And you have about 12 slates on your channel. And people begin to think that you made that amount of money. So sometimes your biggest film actually does well, but because the capital onto your channel for great content, you can't feel them. You have to keep going until the next thing comes.
Okay,
so speaking of next,
let me just butt in there. when you're talking about this, I think the YouTube production budget scaled, in the last couple of years. It's gone up from before it used to be like 4 million, 5 million. Now it's 20. I see a few, and I see that they spend a lot of money, but they spend a lot of money, but they still situate still a 2-set, 3-set, 3 locale kind of thing. Isn't that what isn't that about the audience maybe getting tired of that too as well? Don't you think in terms of the ambitions, the production ambitions, that people are just trying to say, let's play safe. We can't do more than 2 or 3 locations. Keep everything within one location or whatever, the same. I think for the amount that is being spent, even they have scaled in the budgets, the storytelling has also been found wanting.
Okay, so let's deal with storytelling. I think that we had better stories when we did not have YouTube, and I'm going to tell you why. The writers are swamped with people reaching out to them, give me a script now, give me a script now. So you don't have enough time to be creative. You don't do script reviews / conferencing and all of that. So when it was just the Dumata market, or when we had African Magic, when our movies had to go through QC and all of that, proper thought went into storytelling. Now you still have the very amazing writers, but sometimes because of the shoestring budget of YouTube, some YouTube producers cannot afford these writers. So how do I begin to explain this? So you can't pay a writer who takes 1.5 or 2 million to write you a masterpiece. You want to look for an 80K writer and you want to make 20 million views. You go hard. Sometimes it happens, don't get me wrong, but you go hard. So I think that is where the problem with the story begins to come in. Budgeting, awareness, understanding the business model, understanding that since Netflix and Prime also left, some of the audience who were loyalists to those platforms now navigate to YouTube, say, okay, this YouTube, they look down on, let's see what they got. And then when they come there, they're a bit disappointed. So they are the ones reviewing movies on TikTok and everywhere, asking us to do more. And some of us have decided to do more. And that's why the budget went up. But for those who you talked about who still keep it small, well, I don't blame them. I don't do that because I don't make YouTube film difference. There's film and there's YouTube film. I make films that I put on YouTube. A few of my colleagues that I respect also make films that they put on YouTube because that's our reality. So I go all out. I have made films close to 40. Some I have released, some I'm yet to release, coming on YouTube. I don't know what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, I am happy because it's a Frederick Leonard film. It's my name. I don't want to play with my name. So not a lot of people have that consciousness, and if they don't, I implore them to please have that consciousness and understanding, because when YouTube goes, because it will go, I hope you're qualified for what's coming next.
Frederick, thanks very much. I mean, I've had this I've been part of the school of thought to say that the importance of